Hello, welcome to the Fanfic Majesty. 2PIW. Chapter 31. Whitebeard, join the war. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. That's Shichibukai Bartholomew Big Bear. What's the joke? How come there are so many big bears? Did I have the illusion? What exactly is going on? The crew of the Whitebeard pirate group exclaimed. At the end, even Marco and the others stopped, turned their heads and saw a row of big bears, with a look of astonishment on their faces. Big bear. So many big bears, which one is true? Ivankov screamed in surprise. No wonder they were so surprised. The big bear is 7 warlords of the sea, extremely powerful. Now there are more than 20 at once. If these big bears have the same strength as the real big bears, what else would they fight? No need to fight at all, just surrender. Don't panic. Whitebeard violently raised the long knife, and the hilt hit the ship's board heavily, with a strong voice resounding throughout the bay. This is just a human weapon made by Marine. Everyone continues to break through. Human weapons. I remember. I did hear that the world government was experimenting with some kind of weapon before. Unexpectedly, the world government would make weapons look like big bears. The crew of the Whitebeard pirates was relieved. This weapon may be very strong. But everyone knows that weapons are weapons after all, and they cannot be better than a real bear. As long as there are not more than 20 Shichibukai level weapons appearing at once. Then they have the confidence to eliminate these weapons. Continue to break through. Marco's wings shook, and he shouted at the crew below him. Advertisement. Well, thousands of crew members responded loudly. Regardless of those human weapons, he continued to rush towards Marineford against Marine's resistance. Sengoku, do you want to use these weapons to double team us? Whitebeard looked at Sengoku on the execution stand, then turned his head and shouted in one direction. Oz. The words fell, and a rumbling voice came. This sound alarmed everyone, turning their heads to look around. Behind the Moby Dick, a figure covering the sky came out. Boom. The figure is nearly 40 meters in height. With the arrival, the huge soles of feet stepped on the ice, rumbling and shaking on the ice. Junior. Oz. The descendant of Oz, powerful enough to lift a warship easily, is one of the captains of the 43 Pirate Regiment under the Whitebeard Pirate Regiment. Father. Little Oz came to the side of the mobile, lowered his head and looked at Whitebeard honestly. Oz. Those human weapons will be handed over to you. Whitebeard spoke slowly, then looked at the Evil King and others not far away. The prisoners who were fighting with the Marines suddenly knew what Whitebeard meant, and quickly retreated to the side of Oz. Both Vice Admiral and Shichibukai have their own opponents. Prisoners like the Evil King and Crescent Hunter don't have to deal with any powerful characters at all, just let a few people fight against human weapons. Is this really a weapon? It's really lifelike, but I don't know how strong it is. Pizarro looked interested. If you want to know their strength, just try it. Advertisement. The Crescent Hunter Daipeng showed an evil smile and jumped up as he said, rushing towards the human weapon. Seeing this, the others did not hesitate and tried their best. Although several people were summoned temporarily. But everyone knows that the outcome of this war will determine whether they can leave Marineford. For the sake of their freedom, none of the people present was stealing and raping. Attack. Zon Momomaru waved the big axe in his hand and roared angrily. The human weapon Big Bear seems to be under control, his eyes glowing, and a huge laser beam spit out from his mouth. The beam swept across, causing a violent explosion. Boom. Countless fires rose, and smoke billowed. The power is really good. Surprise flashed in the eyes of the evil King Pizarro. The power of the laser beam just now was above ordinary artillery fire. Little Oz, Wolf, cover us. The Crescent Hunter Daipeng gave a dangerous smile. She is the most ferocious female prisoner in Eternal Hell, and her strength is naturally not weak. So even though there are many pacifists, she is not afraid. Listening to this, the huge Little Oz directly grabbed a warship and threw it at the pacifists. The evil wolf also slapped the ice, lifted a huge amount of ice, and threw it out. With the cover of the two giants, Daipeng quickly approached. Boom. A fierce battle started. The prisoners of Eternal Hell were quite strong, and with the assistance of Oz, they immediately stopped the pacifists, and even under the attack of a few people, several pacifists were immediately scrapped. Advertisement. The pacifists are also pinned down. On the execution stage, Sengoku's face changed slightly. Vice Admiral, Giant Vice Admiral, 7 Warlords of the Sea, 100,000 Marine Elite, Pacifist. The previously deployed combat power was blocked one by one by the Whitebeard pirates. Now he can summon only 3 Admiral, as well as himself and Garp. But this guy Garp. He rolled his head. Seeing Garp standing below silently, he finally shook his head. Ace is Garp's grandson, so before the start of the war, he never thought that Garp would take action. In the case of removing Garp, the only power he can mobilize is himself and Admiral. No matter what, I will use this last force to stop Whitebeard. Sengoku took a deep breath, his eyes heavy. Then he raised his head and looked directly at the Moby Dick in the distance, knowing that Whitebeard was likely to take a shot under the current circumstances. Whitebeard in the distance seemed to feel Sengoku's gaze. Also look in the direction of the execution platform. Then he laughed loudly through Marineford. Goo la la la. Sengoku, my old friend, it's time to end this battle too. After talking, he jumped off the Moby Dick. With all forces being intercepted, Whitebeard is the commander-in-chief of this war. Finally, to join the war. Asterisk. Chapter 32. Live more freely than any one person. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Step. The sound of landing sounded. It was originally a slight sound, but it was as loud as thunder in people's ears. Marine Vice Admiral, 7 warlords of the sea, and elite marines are in fierce battle. There is also the captain, crew of the Whitebeard pirate group, and the prisoners of Impel Down. As if agreed, they stopped fighting, turning their heads one by one. Look at the figure jumping from the mobile. Whitebeard, known as the strongest man in the world, finally set foot on this battlefield, ready to fight. The participation in the war this time was different from before. Although Whitebeard had made a shot before, he didn't use his full strength. And now, the battle has reached a fever pitch. Next, all Marines will definitely endure Whitebeard's full attack. As Whitebeard going to shoot, the Marines swallowed, and the cold sweat kept slipping. Whitebeard wounded Aokiji and threw back Hawkeye with a punch, leaving a deep impression on everyone. Now Whitebeard is ready to make a real shot. There was a wave of fear in every Marine, wondering if he could stop Whitebeard's attack. Tread, tread, tread. The sound of calm footsteps sounded. Whitebeard is holding a big knife and walking gently on the ice of the bay. That's right. Just walk around gently. No hockey is used, no other actions. Advertisement. Like an elder, walking on the street. If it weren't for the corpses all around, no one would think that Whitebeard was here to save people. But that's it. 100,000 Marine, many Vice Admiral and 7 warlords of the sea. But none of them stood up and seemed to dare not stop Whitebeard from moving forward. Even when Whitebeard came, some timid Marines, in fear, subconsciously gave way to Whitebeard. Not good. Sengoku's face changed on the execution stage. Knowing that Whitebeard had previously injured Aokiji and repelled the Hawkeye, left an indelible impression on many Marine officers. So that Whitebeard came and didn't dare to stop it at all. All wake me up. He is just an old man who has survived from the old times to the present. Don't forget the justice you shoulder. Sengoku shouted loudly. The sound is transmitted to everyone's ears through the phone worm. The Marine soldier, who had been deeply deterred by Whitebeard, immediately woke up. Remember, this is the battlefield, and he is the Marine who shoulders justice. How can we, who are in justice, be afraid? Even if Whitebeard is strong, we must engrave the power of justice and fear on the pirates together. The ghost spider roared, and the voice spread all over the bay. Under the encouragement of Sengoku and the ghost spider, the sea soldiers who had been frightened recovered one after another, and their morale was high. Yes, first and Marine, it is the duty of a soldier to defeat the pirates and restore the peace of the world. The blood in their hearts rose, and the Marines flushed, waving their arms and roaring in anger. Never let Whitebeard pass through the bay. Stop him. Everyone shot together. Marine raised his weapon and rushed towards Whitebeard. Advertisement. Your opponent is me. Moreover, how can we let you disturb our king? Marco, who was flying in the air, swooped down and kicked at the ghost spider. At the same time, the crew behind him also faced the seamen. Don't want to get close to Daddy. Joes yelled. The arm shrouded in diamond light slammed down against the ice. Boom. There was a loud noise. Countless icy debris splashed, blasting several Marine soldiers around. Stop these seamen and open a way to the shore for Dad. Beasta swung his long sword, the sharp light brought a series of bloodshots, and shouted at the crew. Clear. The members of the Whitebeard pirate group responded one by one, rushing to Marine desperately, abruptly preventing Marine's impact. Then, a strange sight appeared in the bay. Whitebeard walked towards the shore step by step. The surrounding Marines roared and raised their weapons to stop Whitebeard from moving forward. But before he got close to Whitebeard, he was stopped by the crew of the Whitebeard pirates. A straight avenue separates it. Whitebeard walked down this aisle with a big knife in his hand. The sides beside him, it was Bullet and Luffy who followed up. The two were like guards, guarding on both sides of Whitebeard, and one position behind. That's it. Under the angry and helpless gazes of 100,000 Marine officers and Marshal Sengoku, Whitebeard boarded Marineford. At this time away from Ace's execution platform. Only isolated. 3 admirals thrown. Ace, who was kneeling on the execution platform, also raised his head to look at Whitebeard, his face full of pain. Father. Advertisement. Why? Obviously I ignored everyone's advice and ran out by myself. Why not let me destroy myself? Ace's body was shaking. Because of his willfulness, the Whitebeard pirates and Marine clashed fiercely. Because of his waywardness, let everyone fight with each other with fate. If he had matured a little earlier, today's casualties would not have occurred. So for the rescue of the Whitebeard pirates, he didn't have any excitement, but was full of guilt. Because Whitebeard raised his head, his expression extremely calm, as if to say something more normal. You are my son. As a father, how can I watch my son die? On the execution stage, Ace trembled all over. Looking at the tall figure with a crooked crescent beard under the stage, tears could no longer stop flowing down. You are always looking for answers to whether you should be born or not. But, Ace, the moment you got on my boat, everything was different. You are no longer alone. Everyone on the boat is your family. They came here just to save their brother out. Whitebeard said slowly, and then his tone became serious and low. So, don't let everyone down. Ace looked up sharply and stared at Whitebeard blankly. At this moment, his doubts about whether he should be born or not, all dissipated. Tears flowed down, blurring his eyes. Then he screamed in choking. Father, I want to live. Take me back to the sea. The confusion in my heart dissipated. He has decided that no matter what happens, he will hold on tightly. This time, he no longer lives as the son of Roger. But to live in the name of the son of Whitebeard, and live more freely than anyone. Chapter 33. Whitebeard vs. 3 Admiral. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Goo la la la. Whitebeard raised his arm, then slammed it down into the air, and laughed loudly, of course. Boom. A loud roar of horror. The air was smashed with a fist, creating cracks. The force of shock swept through, spreading like a raging wave. At this moment, Marineford is shaking. The entire island seemed to be unable to withstand this kind of force, cracking huge cracks. Click. The ground cracked and cracks spread. The surrounding Marines suddenly exclaimed, and they were swallowed by the cracks without checking. And as the cracks spread, they went towards the execution platform. Not good. Sengoku's face changed drastically, and he immediately shouted in one direction. Cut off the projection phone worm, there is no need to report the next thing. Faced with today's situation, he is scared. If developed according to the original work, no matter how strong the Whitebeard pirate group is, it will not be able to hit the execution stand. Can change with the plot. The result of this war has gone wrong. This deviation gave Sengoku a hunch. That is today's execution, and it may come to an end in the form of failure. Once it fails, it will be broadcast live to the whole world. This is definitely a huge blow to Marine's reputation. So no matter what, it can't be broadcast live. Yes. Advertisement. The sea soldier responded, cutting off the projection. People who watched the live broadcast all over the world were suddenly shocked. I don't understand why the projection disappeared. Poor Salino, Sakazuki, Kuzan, what are you waiting for? After Sengoku cut off the projection, he took a breath, and then yelled at the 3 admiral below, never let Whitebeard get close to the execution platform. Received. Kizaru stood up and said in a very exaggerated tone, as expected, he is the strongest person in the world. Under such precautions, he hit here. But it's over. Akainu, who was already burning with anger, looked at Whitebeard coldly. The artillery and screams of this war will be your funeral sorrow. Aokiji on the side was silent, but the frost had already covered his face. When the words fell, the 3 of them jumped up at the same time. After jumping off his seat, he came to Whitebeard, blocking the road ahead in a double team form. It's Aokiji Admiral, Kizaru Admiral, and Akainu Admiral. The 3rd Admiral of the headquarters has finally taken action. With Admiral's interception, no matter how strong Whitebeard is, he can't save Firefist Ace. The surrounding Marines cheered. 3 Admiral. There was an extra touch of seriousness on Whitebeard's face. These 3 are the top powerhouses in the world. Even if he returns to his peak state, he dare not say that he can defeat the 3 and save Ace. Bullet. Whitebeard turned his head slightly and looked at the man next to him. That guy Sengoku will never leave the execution platform for half a step, so it's up to you to deal with it. Quote. Tower-like Bullet did not reply immediately, but only after a few seconds, said, don't forget what you promised before. He is able to help. This condition is that after the war is over, Whitebeard is required to have a real showdown with himself. Goo la la la. Advertisement. Then see if you can get out of Marineford alive. Whitebeard laughed, and then looked at Luffy who was aside. Straw Hat Boy, Ace will be handed over to you. He is very clear about the current situation. Knowing that the whole Marineford, only Luffy can save Ace. Because only Luffy can defeat Garp and break Marine's final and strongest barrier. If he shot, Garp will never show mercy. At that time, he will be besieged by Aokiji, Kizaru, Akainu, Sengoku and Garp. So I want to save Ace safely. The only way is for him to stop the 3 Admiral, and then let Bullet contain Sengoku. Finally, Luffy's family card was used to force Garp to release the water. Only in this way can Ace escape. Give it to me. Luffy clenched his fist tightly. It is the last step to save his brother, so no matter what happens, he will not give up. If that's the case, let's let go and make a big fuss. Whitebeard raised his broad knife sharply and pointed it straight at the location of the execution table. Bullet and Luffy heard this and immediately rushed in that direction. Want to pass through me in a delusion? Angrily Akainu looked at Bullet and Luffy with cold eyes, and wanted to intercept. But before he could take action, he realized that the sunlight above his head dimmed. Look up. I saw Whitebeard blocking in front. The arm was raised sideways and hit the air heavily. Boom. There was a loud noise. Under the giant fist, the air burst. Advertisement. The shock wave spread and slammed into Akainu fiercely. And as it spread to Kizaru and Aokiji. Facing the shock wave that swept through, Akainu, who originally wanted to stop Luffy and Bullet, had to defend. Great eruption. The roar came from the mouth. Akainu's arm burst into flames. With a loud roar, a huge lava fist slammed into the shock wave. And Aokiji and Kizaru on the side, but not as strong as Akainu, choose to head on. In a glance at each other, he jumped up. 2 thorn spears. Aokiji folded his arms covered in frost. In the blink of an eye, several frozen spears appeared, spurring at Whitebeard as they swung their arms. Yeah, in the face of the strongest man in the world, I don't dare to be merciful, so let's try this first. Kizaru leapt up and pinched his fingers. As the golden light bloomed, countless dazzling light bullets emerged, continuously lacing at Whitebeard. 8 feet Chong Guyu. Boom. A roar shook Marineford. Everyone was alarmed and turned around to look around. After seeing Whitebeard intercept the 3 Admiral alone, a look of shock appeared on his face. At the same time, the final battle to decide the outcome, has started. Chapter 34. Kizaru can't laugh anymore. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Boom. A violent explosion occurred. The energy released by the 4-person confrontation raged in this area. As it exploded, the surging vigor was rolled up, and the ordinary marines around him flew out. The bodies of Aokiji and Kizaru also fell to the ground. The 3 stood in different positions, surrounding Whitebeard in a triangular form. However, the faces of the 3 of them were no longer as relaxed as before. It's full of solemnity. The 3 strikes just now, although they didn't use all their strength. But 3 Admiral is the world's top powerhouse. Even if you didn't use your full strength, that blow shouldn't be underestimated. But useless. Whitebeard just punched. Resist 3 Admirals' attacks. And more importantly, from the beginning to the end, Whitebeard's face did not show any dignity, as if he was not facing Admiral at all, but ordinary 3 seamen. This kind of tolerance, such a confident attitude, make Aokiji, Kizaru, and Akainu feel nervous. It can resist the attack of the 3 of us with a single blow. This kind of strength is really terrifying. Kizaru exaggerated, and then the words changed. But, have you ever tasted the taste of being kicked by light? The words fall, the golden light suddenly appears. Just in the blink of an eye, Kizaru appeared behind Whitebeard. The marine coat he was wearing was dancing with the wind. Before the coat fell, his right foot kicked towards Whitebeard's head. Kick at the speed of light. Huh, a violent sound of breaking through the air sounded. From this we can know how powerful this foot is. Advertisement. Under the rapid horizontal kick, this foot got closer and closer to Whitebeard, and finally only 10 centimeters away. It's done. A smile finally appeared on Kizaru's solemn face. In his cognition, at his own speed and such a distance, absolutely no one can react. Aokiji can't, Akainu can't, Sengoku can't. Not even Whitebeard, who is known as the strongest man in the world, not even. But soon, his smile froze. Because Whitebeard's expression remains the same. As before or leisurely, as if they do not look down on these feet. It seems to have absolute confidence to catch this blow. With this attitude, Kizaru, who was originally full of confidence, began to feel nervous. Thoughts are only for a moment. When Kizaru's kick was about to hit Whitebeard lifted his arm. Pop. A crisp voice sounded. The generous palm grabbed Kizaru's right foot in an instant. With a violent grasp. At the same time, the left fist was clenched, and the vibrating light group appeared. With the violent sound of breaking through the air, he slammed Kizaru's stomach violently. Boom. A loud roar. The terrible shock wave erupted like a raging wave. Not good. Kizaru was shocked and immediately escaped with elementalization. Huh. The light flashed. Advertisement. When it reappears, it is already in another location. As if feeling that he had escaped, Kizaru exhaled. But did not wait for the breath to finish. He found that the light above his head dimmed. Look up. The eyes suddenly expanded to ultimate, and the pupils shrank into a needle-like shape. A tall and sturdy body, a white beard with a crescent moon, and a coat fluttering in the wind. Whitebeard. After he escaped from the elementalization, Whitebeard actually chased him up instantly. The arm containing the vibrating force blasted out violently. Kizaru's face changed drastically, and he wanted to use elementalization to escape again. But, it's too late. Boom. A fist hit Kizaru's stomach hard. The terrible shocking force erupted, raging across the opponent's body. Then the whole person flew out like a cannonball and hit the wall of the main building, shocking the sky full of dust. Quiet. All around fell into a weird silence. The battlefield where the fighting sound soared into the sky, instantly lost its voice. The Marine and the pirates who were fighting each other stopped their movements and looked in the direction where the four were fighting. A look of horror appeared on his face after seeing Kizaru being blown into the air. Why? How could it happen? How strong is Whitebeard? Even Kizaru Admiral was blown away by a punch. The world's strongest. This is the strength of the world's strongest man. The Marines were terrified. A punch injured Admiral Aokiji. Then he retreated Hawkeye, the world's #1 swordsman. Now, under the siege of the three Admiral, Kizaru Admiral can be easily blasted off. This terrible strength makes everyone terrified. This is the strength of the old man after his body recovers. With this strength, even if the three Admiral join forces, the old man will be fearless. Advertisement. A look of admiration appeared on Marco's face. Ha 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 ha. Marines, have you seen it? Daddy is powerful. Joes laughed and shouted at the surrounding Marines, his tone full of worship and pride. Daddy repelled Marine Admiral, and we can't let Daddy wait for a long time. Everyone rush into Marineford. Beasta swung his sword and laughed loudly. Smash into Marineford. Rescue Ace. Go on everyone. The morale of the Whitebeard pirates skyrocketed, and amidst cheers and roars, they rushed towards Marine soldiers whose morale plummeted due to the bombing of Kizaru. Being rushed in this way immediately suffered heavy losses. Ahem. In the sound of fighting, a cough sounded. The smoke and dust dissipated, and the bombed Kizaru climbed up from the pile of rocks. The opponent who received a strong blow no longer had the kind of leisure before, but was embarrassed. There is even a bloodline hanging at the corner of the mouth. Kizaru was injured. Under Whitebeard's fierce attack, even if Kizaru's escape skills were excellent, he was not spared. Akainu on the side. After seeing the injured Kizaru, his face changed. First Aokiji, then Kizaru. 2 consecutive Admiral were injured. Let him have to admit one thing. That is, Whitebeard is strong. Strong enough to kill any Admiral. Anything. Including myself. Chapter 35. Beat Akainu. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Porosalino. The face of Sengoku on the execution stage was so ugly that even Kizaru was hit. Among Marine 3 Admiral, Kizaru is not the strongest. But when it comes to escape skills, it is definitely the first. But that was the case, still being injured by Whitebeard, which gave him the feeling of facing Whitebeard in his prime of life. Why does this guy still have such strength? Sengoku gritted his teeth and couldn't figure it out. But he is not in the mood to think so much now. Because after Whitebeard stopped the 3 Admiral, Bullet and Luffy rushed towards the execution platform unscrupulously. Luffy is nothing to him. But Bullet is a difficult generation. When he was on Roger's ship, his strength was comparable to that of Rayleigh. So his most important task now is to stop Bullet and prevent the opponent from saving Ace. Below the execution platform, after Kizaru stood up from the pile of rocks, he returned to his previous position and once again surrounded Whitebeard in the form of a triangle. The blow just now made him thoroughly understand what monster he was facing. So that the previous randomness completely disappeared. Instead, his face was dignified. Don't be careless, although I don't know why, but I have a hunch that Whitebeard is still in the strongest form. Aokiji said condensedly. He had been blown away with a punch before, and he knew how strong Whitebeard was. Although he is more than 70 years old, his strength is still terrifying. Humph. Akainu snorted coldly, stared at Whitebeard in front of him, and then chose to take the initiative. Success. Whitebeard. Boom. Molten appeared on the fist, and then instantly spread the entire arm. Fiery white smoke came out, and the sunlight was distorted under this high temperature. After stepping on both feet, the dust was lifted and rushed away quickly. Advertisement. When he rushed to a position only 3 meters away from Whitebeard, his body jumped up and the molten arm fell heavily. Great eruption. There was a roar. Molten erupted, forming fist marks, blasting towards Whitebeard in an overwhelming manner. Goo la la la. Really arrogant. Magma boy. Whitebeard chuckled. Without even looking at the molten fist marks, he directly raised his arm sideways, and a ball of light visible to the naked eye emerged, struggling to smash down into the air. Boom. There was a loud noise. The power of shock exploded and hit the lava fist mark severely. The two collided together, the turbulent energy raged, and the ground seemed unable to withstand this force and exploded fiercely. The terrible Qi Jin rolled up and turned into a hurricane raging around. Step on. Akainu leapt back to the ground. Looking at the front covered by heavy smoke and dust, I couldn't see the specific situation inside. But soon, he heard a moment of movement. A figure faintly appeared in the smoke and dust ahead. When he could see clearly, this figure had already broken through the smoke and dust and came to him. Yes, Whitebeard. Staring, Akainu was startled, and his cold sweat slipped off instantly. Even if he was Marine Admiral, he felt a suffocating pressure when facing this legendary man. This kind of pressure actually made him retreat for a while. Step. 2 steps. 3 steps. Whitebeard just stood in front of Akainu and took Akainu back 3 steps in surprise. The face is more solemn than ever. Advertisement. Damn it. The solemnity on Akainu's face was quickly replaced by anger. It seems to be extremely dissatisfied with his behavior. Because he is Marine Admiral, his words and deeds represent the face of Marine. But the fearful step back just now made him deeply ashamed. Magma Kid. A deep voice exploded from my ears. Akainu woke up in shock and looked up sharply. But what I saw was a pair of eyes that were sharp to the ultimate, and the raised fists. Not good. Akainu was horrified and used elementalization without even thinking about it. And Whitebeard's fist held high also hit Akainu's head with a punch. Boom. The strong shock squeezed Akainu's head, making Akainu unable to stop it at all. There was a loud noise. Akainu was hit to the ground with a punch. Click. The cracking sound appeared. Under the force of the shock, the solid ground exploded. Akainu's head was punched into the ground. Although he was elementalized in time, he was still injured. Blood flowing down. Scarlet blood stained Akainu's face red. It made him look like he didn't have the majesty of Admiral anymore, and he looked very embarrassed. Asshole. Akainu was angry with ultimate. He is Marine Admiral, the highest combat power in this department. But now it is like a chicken, pressed by Whitebeard on the ground. So that, can't get up. Advertisement. This posture is simply a shame to him. In the roar, he struggled hard. But the reality gave him a cruel slap. Because Whitebeard's power is too strong. No matter how hard he struggles, he can't get rid of Whitebeard's arm. Akainu Admiral. How is it possible? Isn't Admiral the highest combat power in this unit? How could it be completely suppressed by Whitebeard? Are you kidding? Is everything I see real? The surrounding Marines were holding their heads, their faces covered with fear and horror, and their bodies were shaking constantly. Who is Akainu? Marine's highest combat power. Since joining Marine, he has been known as the monster of New World, and he is the world's top powerhouse. But what do they see now? Akainu. Admiral. Suppress the top masters of New World. At this time, Whitebeard pressed his hand to the ground. No matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't get rid of it. Horrified. Fear. Difficult to accept. All kinds of emotions enveloped all Marines' hearts, making them feel desperate. Now, let alone ordinary Marines, even the generals began to wonder if they could prevent Whitebeard from rescuing Ace. If it can be prevented, then why did the 3 Admiral get injured in a row? With such pessimistic thoughts, Marines' morale plummeted, and even some timid people dropped their weapons and chose to be deserters. Chapter 36. 3 Admirals Teamwork. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Whitebeard, you bastard. Akainu angered ultimate and roared. Under the gaze of 100,000 Marine, he was placed on the ground with one hand like a chicken, unable to move. This is simply a shame to him. In the roar, he no longer ignored the head held by Whitebeard, and raised his arm with all his strength, and the hot temperature erupted from his body. Die me. Fang Gurren. Boom. The arm melted into molten slurry, and as it extended, it became a dog's head shape, biting away towards Whitebeard. Shoot together. Aokiji drank low. The icy frost condensed in the hands, and in the push, formed a huge ice bird. The ice bird came alive, as if it had life. After aiming at Whitebeard, his wings shook and slammed. Perhaps because of the coldness, the ground where it passed by was frozen one after another. Are you ready to join forces? Whitebeard's body jumped up. Easily avoid Akainu's canine red lotus, while raising his fist, he slammed it down in the direction where the ice bird was flying. Boom. The shock wave spreads. The ice bird collided with the force of the vibration and exploded directly. Don't forget me. Kizaru, who had never taken a shot, immediately seized this opportunity, flashed his body, and came behind Whitebeard. Put your hands together, the golden light shines. As the arms opened, a golden long sword appeared. Sky Kong Yunjian. Stabbed. With both arms waving, accompanied by a sound of breaking through the air, the sword pointed straight at Whitebeard's back. Gu la la la. Advertisement. Kizaru Kid, sneak attack is not a good habit. Whitebeard felt the sharpness coming from behind, turned around without even thinking about it, and swung his big knife vigorously. Clang! The sound of jintijaoming appeared. The two weapons collided, causing a series of sparks. Have you caught? Kizaru's gaze condensed, and he continued to raise his arms, launching lightning-like continuous attacks. However, Whitebeard's strength has returned to its peak state. Physical strength, physical fitness, hockey. It's all the same as when I was young. So even if Kizaru made a quick shot, it didn't cause any trouble to Whitebeard. Swinging a heavy knife, Kizaru's attacks were blocked one by one. Quote. Seeing this, Kizaru frowned. Same as Sengoku. In any case, I can't understand how Whitebeard is so old, how can he still have this kind of strength? And the reaction and physical fitness are more like young people. After fighting for so long, I didn't pant. Clang. The weapons collided again. This time Kizaru did not continue to attack in close quarters, but came to high altitude in a flash. The long sword in his hand changed for a while, turning into light bullets. 8 feet Chong Guyu. Countless light bullets fell like raindrops, and the power of each light bullet should not be underestimated. Kuzan. Kizaru yelled with a blow. Give it to me. Aokiji understood Kizaru's meaning, and a sharp light flashed in his eyes. He raised his arm and waved hard. Ultimate's frost spread, freezing the ground and rushing to Whitebeard's feet. Before Whitebeard could react, the frost spread. It's just a while. Advertisement. Whitebeard's feet were frozen by the frost. Hehehehe. Whitebeard, now you have nowhere to run. Akainu let out a deep, cold laugh. Aokiji's feet were frozen. There is a large-scale Bakai Chong Go Yu on the top of his head. In his opinion, even if Whitebeard is known as the strongest man in the world, he cannot escape. So, go to death, Whitebeard. A roar resounded through Marineford. He hated Whitebeard to ultimate, and being crushed by Whitebeard was a shame in his life. In the roar, Akainu's arm melted into molten metal. With a punch, the molten blast hit violently like a beam of light. Dark Hound. The speed of this blow is almost ultimate. But in the blink of an eye, he rushed to Whitebeard. Not good. Danger. Daddy. Damn, the combination of the three admiral has increased the difficulty of the confrontation at least several times. The face of the group of Whitebeard pirates changed drastically. Old Whitebeard, don't die. Crocodile, who forced the enlightened brother to looked anxious after seeing Whitebeard who was in danger. Father. Not far away, Jinbei pushed the big bear away even more, desperately trying to support it. But Big Bear continued to stop him, preventing him from moving forward half a step. Just when people were panicked, Marco yelled angrily, "Believe Daddy. Don't forget, Dad is the strongest in the world, how could he get hurt because of this trick?" When this word fell, everyone woke up in shock. Yes. Whitebeard is the strongest in the world. Even if you are besieged by 3 Admiral, you will definitely win. Advertisement. The crew member who wanted to understand this, roared again and rushed towards Marine. But compared to the crew of the Whitebeard pirates, those seamen didn't think so. Whitebeard is their enemy. Seeing Whitebeard in danger now, all the Marines cheered suddenly. There is hope in his eyes, and I hope that Admiral can take this opportunity to hit Whitebeard. Pity. The hopes of the Marines are destined to fail. When the 3 Admiral attacks rushed in, Whitebeard not only did not panic, but laughed boldly. That's right. Just laugh. Even in the face of Admiral's teamwork, there is still nothing to fear. It seems that the attack of the 3 people just fell apart and can be broken easily. This kind of heroic laughter shocked everyone. Under the attention of everyone, Whitebeard raised his arm. Fold your arms together and hit the air heavily. Goo la la la. 3 boys, this attack can't cause me any harm. Boom. The air shattered. Cracks spread all around. The unparalleled shocking force exploded, centering on Whitebeard's fists, spreading across the island. At this moment, the whole world seemed to be shaking. There was a rumbling sound, and the crackling sound of the ground cracked continuously. The huge crack spread and swallowed countless seamen. Faced with a joint attack by 3 Admiral, Whitebeard finally made his best blow. Chapter 37. The Last Iron Wall, Hero Garp. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Marineford was shaking. Huge cracks appeared from all directions, tearing the entire island apart. The buildings on the island collapsed and were constantly swallowed by cracks. At the end, even the tallest building symbolizing justice was shattered under the horrified eyes of all Marines. The tallest building in the headquarters collapsed. Under the sound of rumbling and the sky full of dust, it turned into ruins. The justice and peace it symbolizes, it seems that Whitebeard has also stepped under his feet and crushed it. And in this kind of vibration, 3 Admiral's attack dissipated, and Whitebeard was safe. 100,000 seamen, many generals and 7 warlords of the sea. At this time, they all watched this scene blankly. Marco and the others and the group of prisoners impelled down also stopped their movements and stared one by one. They are shocked. Extremely shocked. There is only one thought in everyone's mind now. That's why Whitebeard is so strong. In this confrontation, not only did not get injured, but also ruined more than half of Marineford. Is this the true power of Whitebeard? A deep shock flashed in Hawkeye's eyes, and he said to put away the long sword, and then looked up at Ryder. This battle is over. Knowing the true strength of Whitebeard, he has no intention of fighting again. Knowing that his practice is not enough, there is still a certain distance from the height of Whitebeard. So he is ready to leave and continue to strengthen himself. Casual. Ryder didn't stop it, and he couldn't stop it. Advertisement. After hearing this, Hawkeye put away the sword, and turned away without any hesitation. Although this war has not yet been determined. But seeing the true power of Whitebeard, he already knew that Marine could not stop Whitebeard's behavior. So there is no need to stay. Humph. Is this gone? Not far away, Crocodile gave a cold snort, but quickly looked in Whitebeard's direction, with a solemn expression in his eyes. This old man is still so powerful. No. Or even stronger than before. That's right. Whitebeard is now stronger than in the prime of life. Although Whitebeard in his prime of life is at its peak physique, his combat experience and fruit ability development are not as good as those of the elderly Whitebeard. And now, Whitebeard has both advantages. The strength has naturally increased to a level, which can be called the strongest. Can we really beat Whitebeard? Compared with the marveling people, those Marine soldiers showed unprecedented despair. Whitebeard's performance is too strong. Strong enough to make everyone desperate. Everyone began to question whether the victory of this war really belonged to Marine. Just when everyone feels lost, a big laugh sounded, pulling people back to reality. Goo la la la. This is not the time to be surprised. Try your best to break through Marine's defense. Whitebeard smashed the hilt of the knife to the ground, and laughter spread around. He knew that he had only temporarily stopped the three admiral, rather than defeating the three. There is a huge difference between stopping and defeating. And in the three admiral, Akainu is also desperate. Advertisement. The other Aokiji and Kizaru, except for a few skills, were basically playing soy sauce and didn't use their full strength at all. So now is the best time. As long as you seize this opportunity, you can rescue Ace. Yes, quickly break through the line of defense. Marco was the first to wake up, rushed to the ghost spider, and continued to attack. Rescue Ace. Go. The victory of this war will definitely belong to us. The crew of the Whitebeard pirates cheered, and their morale reached its peak. And at this moment, Bullet and Luffy also rushed to the execution platform. Looking at the brother in front of him, Luffy laughed unscrupulously. Ace. Luffy. Kneeling on the ground, Ace raised his head, anxious on his face. Although the confusion in his heart has been solved, and he decided that no matter what happened, he would catch it firmly. But even so, he still doesn't want Luffy to risk himself to save himself. Coming. The face of Sengoku on the execution stage changed, and he wanted to block Ace to prevent the two from rescuing. But he didn't wait for him to leave. Another figure flashed past and intercepted in front of the execution platform. Yes. Hero Garp. At the last moment, he stood up. Will bet on the justice and position in his heart to prevent Luffy and Bullet from moving forward. Luffy's eyes widened when he saw the person coming. Grandfather. Advertisement. Get out of there. How could I get away? I'm Vice Admiral from Marine Headquarters. Garp shouted with a serious look. I was fighting pirates long before you were born, so if you want to get through here, kill me first. After saying this, pain flashed in his eyes. If Ace is Marine, then whether or not Ace is Roger's son, he will fight his life to protect Ace. But Ace is a pirate, have a different position from him. So no matter what, he must stand up and stop. I do not want. Luffy yelled and continued to rush. During the impact, the skin turned red and the steam diffused, and then he punched Garp. Looking at the fists getting closer, Garp's momentum reached its peak. I don't know why, suddenly recalled the appearance of Ace and Luffy when they were young. The softness in the heart was touched, and the momentum was dissipated. Although there is no need to sympathize with the villains who are unscrupulous at sea, it is different if it is family. The angry eyes slowly closed. Faced with Luffy's punch, Garp couldn't avoid it. Boom. A dull voice sounded. Garp, known as the Marine hero, was blown out by Luffy. At this moment, Luffy is only one step away from the execution platform. Chapter 38. Discover Akainu being played. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Garp. Can't even you escape the love of your children? Sengoku looked dignified at Garp, who was blasted out, then looked at Luffy and Bullet who rushed forward, and shouted in a deep voice, but as long as I'm here, you don't want to save Ace. When the words fell, golden light appeared. But in a blink of an eye, a golden Buddha appeared in front of everyone. It's Marshal Sengoku's ability. Great, as long as the Marshal is there, you can definitely stop Luffy in the Straw Hat. The victory in this war must belong to us. The Marines below cheered. Old man Sengoku, your opponent is me. A deep laughter sounded. Before Sengoku took a shot against Luffy, he saw Bullet jump up and block in front. Armament hockey filled his arms and smashed at the Golden Buddha. Bullet. An anger flashed in Sengoku's eyes. Without even thinking about it, he raised his huge arms and rushed forward. Boom. The two fisted. Purple thunder and lightning flashed in the center of the collision of the two fists, and the powerful force turned into a hurricane to sweep around. The execution station simply cannot withstand this kind of power. With a loud click, it continued to collapse, and Ace was about to fall. Ace. Luffy seized this opportunity and came to Ace before the execution platform had completely crashed. He also held the key given by Empress Hancock in his hand. Not good. Sengoku's face changed drastically. The huge body rushed towards Ace as if frantically, his fist was raised high, and it smashed down like a mighty force. Advertisement. I said, your opponent is me. Bullet blocked the front again, not giving Sengoku a chance to attack Luffy at all. Damn it. Sengoku cursed secretly. Although his strength is strong, Bullet is not weak. If Bullet is not resolved, it will not stop Luffy at all. Wanting to understand this, he no longer struggled, turned and hit Bullet, his huge body made a piercing sound. Bring it on. Bullet looked excited. He came this time to challenge the strong. Now that an expert with Admiral's strength is right in front of him, how could he shrink back? Boom. 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 A fierce battle started. With a loud noise, the terrible energy fluctuation spread, destroying the execution platform. And Luffy also took advantage of this opportunity to use the key to open the chain. At the moment when Ace's chains were unfastened, the execution platform collapsed, and the bodies of the two of them fell downward, and smoke billowed. But soon, a clear voice came from the smoke and dust. Luffy, you used to be like this, you like to mess around. Boom. The roar appeared. The fiery flame surging, pierced the sky full of dust. Under everyone's gaze, Ace, who was burning with flames, was grabbing Luffy and rushing out of the smoke. After hours of fighting, Ace successfully escaped. Marineford was silent first, and then burst into enthusiastic cheers. Good job. Ace finally escaped. We made it. Ha 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 ha. What about Naval Headquarters? Don't even want to stop us even if you summon 100,000 Marines. Advertisement. The crew of the Whitebeard pirates cheered. Straw Hat Boy, good job. A smile appeared on Marco's face, then the words changed, and he shouted to everyone. Everyone prepares to cover the retreat of Daddy and Ace. He understands that now is not the time to be happy. Only by rescuing Ace and then leaving Marineford can we truly win the war. Cover Daddy. Joes yelled, feeling infinite power gushing out of his body, and with his fist swinging, he flew all the Marines. Clear. The crew of the Whitebeard pirates responded in a sudden. One by one, brandishing their big swords, they continued to rush towards the blocking Marine. It is a shameful shame to let Firefist Ace escape even when 100,000 Marine soldiers and 7 warlords of the sea were summoned. Sengoku's face was hard to see ultimate, and at the same time he lowered his head to look at Admiral not far away. When will you be fooling around? Stop me Ace and Straw Hat Luffy. He feels mad. Garp released the water and was blown away by Luffy. Even Aokiji and Kizaru in Admiral have been playing soy sauce without having to try their best. If you really let Whitebeard and Ace evacuate, then Marine will lose face. How to suppress the turbulent new world by then? Yeah, it looks like something has gone wrong. Kizaru's tone stretched, and his expression slowly became serious. He didn't really take it seriously just now. Although he put a few skills, his power was average, and he didn't use his full strength at all. But seeing the situation beyond expectations, know that if you don't use your full strength anymore, something big may happen. It's not good. Aokiji also has a feeling of getting off. These two bastards. Akainu on the side saw the expressions of the two and felt a little angry. It's no wonder that something was wrong just now, and the 3 Admiral teamed up and couldn't beat Whitebeard. Advertisement. It turned out that I was desperate. Aokiji and Kizaru are just actors. But soon, he suppressed his anger. Knowing that now is not the time to be angry, Ace must be stopped, otherwise the war will be lost. At this point, he rushed out. You two, don't want to pass me. Akainu roared angrily. The arm turned into a hot molten slurry, and it smashed at Luffy and Ace fiercely. Dark Hound. This blow is almost ultimate. Ace and Luffy were taken aback. Although they avoided them at the very moment of their deaths, they were still affected by the air wave, and their bodies flew out. Magma Boy, your opponent is me. Whitebeard spoke lowly. The fist was raised sideways and slammed heavily into the air. Boom. There was a loud noise. The strong shock spread and swept towards Akainu, causing the opponent to give up the attack and switch to defense. The blocked Akainu was furious, and then yelled at Aokiji and Kizaru. When will you two see it? He was extremely dissatisfied with the two. Even if you didn't take the shot seriously just now, you're still waiting and watching at this time. Continue to wait and see, and Whitebeard will really leave. Aokiji and Kizaru glanced at each other, but did not reply. Then he approached Whitebeard step by step, his breath swept like a storm. This kind of breath is too terrifying. Even the clouds in the sky were affected and condensed together, as if a storm was about to come. Facing the escalation and loss of control, Aokiji and Kizaru are finally going to do their best. Asterisk. Chapter 39. War that is about to end. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Goo la la la, are you finally serious? Whitebeard smiled lowly, pinching the palm of the sword, and increasing his strength a bit. This war is about Marine's face, and it can't let you leave easily. Aokiji said solemnly. As I walked, frost sprayed. The surrounding temperature seemed to plummet by more than 10 degrees, the sky seemed to be affected by this breath, dark clouds rolled, and snowflakes fell. Serious Aokiji changed the climate on his own. The ground was slowly frozen by the ice, and the entire Marineford Island seemed to have entered a severe winter in an instant. It's cold. Everyone shuddered. Aokiji Admiral is serious. The marine officers present all showed hope. Hungry for the three Admiral to show their true strength, defeat Whitebeard, and completely reverse the defeat. Aokiji this guy. Seeing this, Sengoku in the distance was also relieved. He believes that as long as the three Admiral go all out, no matter how strong Whitebeard is, there will be no escape. Father. At this moment, Ace, who was blown away, got up and rushed to Whitebeard, with excitement on his face. Ace. Whitebeard rolled his head slightly, a smile appeared on his face. Father, let me help you. Ace was fighting high, with flames burning in his fists. Do not. Advertisement. Whitebeard shook his head, slamming the knife in his hand heavily on the ground, staring directly at Admiral, who was approaching. This kind of battle is not something you can participate in. Ace's strength is good, reaching Shichibukai level. But what about Shichibukai? Most Shichibukai in front of Admiral and 4 Emperors are just slightly stronger pirates. So even if Ace enters the war, it won't help much. But, anxious look appeared on Ace's face. Go meet Marco and the others. Whitebeard interrupted Ace directly, and his tone became extremely serious. The war is about to end, and now we have to consider retreating, not continuing to fight. He was sober and never came up. Understand that Marine's strength is far more than that of the Whitebeard pirates. If a protracted war breaks out, the superiority of the troops will be revealed and the current situation will be changed. So he must seize this blank period and let the large forces withdraw. Father. Ace wants to say something else. But Whitebeard didn't give a chance, but raised his head and shouted. All the crew members of the Whitebeard pirates have listened, and now I give the final order of this war. The war is about to end. All crew, retreat. A strong voice spread throughout Marineford. The Whitebeard crew members who were fighting against Marine pushed their opponents away and looked at Whitebeard. Jose, Vista, you command the crew to retreat, and I will meet the old man. Marco's wings shook and rushed towards the island, and at the same time turned his head to look at the two men and shouted. I am coming too. Jose wants to keep up. But before he took a few steps, he was stopped by Vista. Advertisement. This is not the time for nonsense. We must withdraw our troops to win this war. As for the old man, there must be a way to leave. Vista said very calmly. Damn it. Jose roared, but he didn't have any impulse. Hume. Is this war finally coming to an end? Doflamingo laughed wildly. What? Are you still going to shoot? Crocodile not far away was very vigilant. I just want to witness this war, but first won't help Marine all the time. Doflamingo sneered, then looked at Whitebeard's back. But let the crew retreat, how should he leave as the captain? Or, he wants to sacrifice himself and let his sons escape safely. Once the Whitebeard pirates truce, that group of Vice Admiral and Marines will free their hands. Now that Whitebeard is still on the island, with Sengoku's character, he will never let Whitebeard leave easily. By then, Whitebeard will not have to face 3 Admiral. But, 100,000 Marine elite, many Vice Admiral Rear Admiral, Hero Garp, and Marshal Sengoku. Under the siege of this kind of force, no one can survive. Crocodile's face changed, and he turned his head to look in the direction of Whitebeard, anxious flashes in his eyes. Old Whitebeard, don't you die. When the two talked, Sengoku pushed back the blocking bullet with a punch, and then shouted at all Marines. Don't worry about those people, since Firefist Ace escaped, then leave Whitebeard. This war cannot be defeated by any means. Advertisement. Firefist Ace escaped, it didn't matter. As long as Whitebeard is killed, Marine will still be the victor of the war. Even the effect brought about is still above killing Ace. Yes, all Marine officers responded in a sudden. Ignoring the evacuated Whitebeard pirates, turned and rushed towards Marineford, ready to encircle Whitebeard. Father. Marco rushed through the crowd and came to Whitebeard. The crew has already started to evacuate, let's go quickly. Goo la la la. That guy Sengoku won't let me leave easily. Whitebeard smiled. He understood that there were only two options for leaving Marineford. One is to give up Ace and lead the team away. The second is to stay behind and contain all the Marines to gain time for the Whitebeard pirate group to evacuate. But, he came here to save Ace back. So I can only choose the second one. That. Marco's face changed drastically. Marco. Whitebeard rolled his head slightly, his tall body enveloped Marco's figure. Leave here with Ace and the Straw Hat Boy. As for the seaman, I will deal with it. He has decided to stay behind. One person alone. 100,000 Marine officers. Chapter 40. The True King of the Sea. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Cannot. Marco's face changed drastically, and his eyes were full of anxiety. Father, you and Ace go first, I will stop here. Goo la la la. Where in this world is there any reason for the son to stay for adventure, and the father to go first? Whitebeard laughed and said as he raised his sword and pointed it at Admiral, and you can rest assured, it's too early for these three boys to challenge me. Father. Marco clenched his teeth, his body motionless. Father, no matter what you say, we will not leave, we must go together. Ace yelled. Perhaps what Whitebeard said was correct. But on the other hand, there is no such thing as a son going first in the world and letting the father take risks. So no matter what, he will not leave. Do you want to disobey the captain's order? Whitebeard turned his head abruptly, his eyes became extremely serious, and then shouted. Go, silly boys. Daddy. Marco kept shaking. But in the end, he grabbed Ace and Luffy, turned and rushed towards the bay. Marco, what are you doing? Let me go. Ace struggled desperately. This is Dad's order, and we can't help Dad by staying here, it will only hinder Dad. A look of pain flashed in Marco's eyes. He hates himself. If he is a little more powerful and can beat Marine Admiral, then the old man doesn't have to bear this kind of pressure alone. But there is no regret medicine in the world. Advertisement. All he can do now is to follow his father's orders and leave with Ace so that he won't be distracted. Under the rapid speed, the three quickly returned to the bay. Although he met Marine in the middle, Marine officers ignored the three of them. Because Sengoku has given a clear order. All besieged Whitebeard. Watching the three people leave, Whitebeard raised his fist sideways, slammed it down into the air, and laughed loudly. Goo la la la. My sons, get out of here, I will be fine, and our journey will never end today. Boom. There was a loud noise. A terrible shock burst out, sweeping the entire Marineford. The island was shaking, as if it would sink at any time. And with the clicking sound, a huge crack emerged, dividing the entire island into two halves. Half of the standing was the evacuated Whitebeard pirate crew. The other half is 100,000 Marine soldiers. And Whitebeard. Father. Damn it, Dad wants to stay alone to block all Marines and buy us time to evacuate. Asshole, how can we abandon old man and escape alone? The crew of the Whitebeard pirates woke up. It was discovered that the evacuation that Whitebeard was talking about was just for them to evacuate, not including themselves. Everyone counterattack and go back and support Dad. The 7th Division Captain Rackle shouted. Yes. We must not abandon the old man and escape alone. What a joke, if we let the father stay alone, then what qualifications do we have to be called sons by the father? Advertisement. A crowd of crew responded. Don't be impulsive. Marco roared and suppressed everyone's voices. This is the order of the father, and it is also the opportunity that the father has finally won, so continue to evacuate. And, we must believe in Daddy. Daddy is the strongest person in the world, and he will never fall here. The words fell, and the surroundings fell silent. All the crew looked at Whitebeard, who had turned his back to them, alone blocking the 100,000 Marines, and then fell silent. Yes, this is an opportunity that the old man has finally won. If they go back, not only will they not be of much help, but will cause trouble to the father. For a while, everyone fell into entanglement, not knowing what to do. Don't hesitate, everyone retreat. In the silence, Busta yelled. Knowing that this is not the time to hesitate, otherwise, once the time has passed, I will not be able to leave if I want to go. The crew heard this, although they were unwilling, but they also made up their minds. A crew member kept retreating and boarded the ship. At the same time, Bullet on the other side of the island also punched Sengoku away and came to Whitebeard's side. How? Are you going to stay here alone for those sons? Bullet stared at Whitebeard, his tone filled with anger. Roger, so does Whitebeard. For an idea, he took the initiative to die. Obviously he has the strongest strength in the world, but he is willing to leave adventures for some hairy boys. For him, this is a weak behavior. Advertisement. This behavior will only make yourself weaker, no longer as strong as before. Goo la la la. Bullet, leave quickly, this island is about to sink. Whitebeard did not answer directly, but smiled confidently, And, my journey is not over yet, I won't die here. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Bullet trembled when he heard the words, and the anger on his face was replaced by shock. Because, how familiar is this sentence? When he joined the Roger pirate group, he also encountered countless dangers, some of which could even overthrow the entire pirate group. But every time, Roger would laugh indifferently. And tell every crew member that their adventure is not over yet and they will never die because of it. At this moment, he saw Roger's figure on Whitebeard. Yeah, you will never die. Bullet took a deep look at Whitebeard, then turned and left. You and Roger are the true kings of this sea. How could such a king die in the hands of the cowardly marine? After speaking, he jumped up, rushed through the crack, and came to the other end. At this time, on the small island of Marineford, Whitebeard is the only one left. And what Whitebeard will face is 100,000 Marine Elite, many Vice Admiral, Motosan Admiral, Marshal Sengoku. And the Marine Hero, Garp. Chapter 41. One person fights 100,000 alone. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. It's time to bring this era to an end. Garp, known as the Marine Hero, got up from the pile of rocks. Regardless of the blood on his forehead, he came to Sengoku's side. Garp, you should know the consequences of losing this war. Sengoku said in a deep voice, seeming to warn Garp not to release the water and to leave Whitebeard anyway. Just leave Whitebeard. That is a greater victory than killing Ace. At that time, even if all the members of the Whitebeard pirates ran away, it didn't matter. Garp was silent for a moment, and finally nodded. He is Marine Vice Admiral after all. Just now because of family affection, he chose to release water. But if so, Ace still failed to escape Marineford, it can only be said that this is Ace's fate. So now, it doesn't matter if it's Whitebeard or his two grandchildren. He is no longer. The servants are merciful. Huh. Sengoku exhaled, then took out the phone bug and yelled. All Marine officers obey the order, give up the hunt for the Whitebeard pirates, and all besiege Whitebeard. Yes, all the Marine roared Kaido. Marines are dispatched. 100,000 elite Marines, armed with guns and ammunition, kept approaching. 3. Admiral released a strong breath and walked not far from Whitebeard under his cold eyes. Marshal Sengoku, Hero Garp, also strode forward, standing in front of all Marine soldiers. At this moment, all the power of Marine, gather together. Advertisement. Their purpose is, take down the person in front of you. And this person's name is Whitebeard. In the old days, it was known as New World, known as the strongest man in the world. Hula. The breeze was blowing. The breath of killing swept across the island. The whole Marine approached step by step, and the atmosphere gradually became more serious. The heart of each Marine soldier seemed to be pressed against a mountain. As we approached, the cold sweat continued to slip from the forehead, and the heart beat violently, and a wave of fear was unavoidable. They clung to the weapons in their hands. It seems that only in this way can I bring myself a sense of security. Tread, tread, tread. The sound of intensive footsteps sounded. In the constant approach, all Marines are only 20 meters away from Whitebeard. At this distance, everyone subconsciously stopped, and never dared to advance half a step. Whitebeard, just catch it. On this island, there is a powerful force to suppress the entire New World. No matter how powerful you are, you can't escape it. Akainu's arm was molten, and he shouted in a cold voice. Whitebeard, you can't run away. Garp looked a little complicated. Although he is Marine. But over the past few decades, I have also had friendships with Whitebeard. Now that the old friends of the old age are dying one by one, Whitebeard is also in desperation, which makes him a little sad. Whitebeard. Sengoku stared at the figure in front of him, with an extremely low tone. As the remnant party of the old era, there is no more ship that can carry you in the new era. So, give up resistance. Ace escaped, but it didn't matter. If Whitebeard can be captured alive and executed on live broadcast, Marine's majesty will reach its peak. Advertisement. At that time, the number of pirates will definitely plummet. We are all children of the sea. She will not easily abandon her children. As long as the ship of the old age does not sink, it will continue to sail with the people of the old age. Sengoku, Garp, if you want my head, come and get it. Goo la la la. Whitebeard smashed his sword heavily on the ground, facing 100,000 Marine soldiers, without any fear, but laughed loudly. Although the old era is about to end like the setting sun. But the old age will never disappear. As long as the ship in your heart is still there, you can continue sailing with him. So, his journey is not over yet. Whitebeard. Sengoku gritted his teeth, finally closed his eyes, and let out a loud roar that resounded through Marineford. All Marines follow the order. Take Whitebeard. Yes, 100,000 Marine officers roared. A chilling killing intent radiated from the people. Although one person is insignificant, the gathering of 100,000 people actually shattered the dark clouds in the sky. Coming. Whitebeard squeezed the big knife tightly. At the same time, a card appeared in front of him. He stayed awake from start to finish, knowing what Marine 3 Admiral, Marshal Sengoku and Garp represent. In the case of 5 people teaming up and not releasing water. Enough to fight against any 4 Emperors group. Because these 5 people are the top powerhouses in the world. If you don't have this card, even if your body recovers to its peak, you will be besieged and die. And this card can reverse the situation. This card was obtained when he defeated Magellan. It's named Double Power Card. Double Combat Power. Use this card to gain double combat power based on yourself, for 3 minutes. In other words, just use this card. He will get twice his own strength. Advertisement. Although there are only 3 minutes, these 3 minutes are enough. Pop. The card exploded and disappeared. Whitebeard also felt a warm current covering his body. Having doubled his combat power, he seemed to be able to sink Marineford with a single fist and set off infinite storms. Sengoku. This war should be over. Whitebeard spoke lowly. Raise your arms and cross them in front of you. When the words fell, they slammed heavily on both sides. Boom. There was a horrible bang. Without Whitebeard's reservation, the double shock fruit ability broke out completely. At this moment, sky, sea, land, everything that the naked eye can see shakes violently. A huge crack appeared, penetrating the entire island, and the completely divided island sank under the rumbling sound. At the same time, the air made a series of sonic booms. A terrible shock wave swept towards 100,000 marine soldiers. The sea water outside the island is constantly tumbling, forming a huge wave of 10,000 feet high, rushing to the island. Gu la la la. Sengoku, now you are going to take off my head, or when the island sinks and the huge waves come, save the 100,000 marine soldiers around you. Whitebeard laughed loudly. This is Yangmu, a scheming man with a bet on the lives of 100,000 marine soldiers. Sengoku would either ignore the sinking of the island and the huge waves and continue to attack him. Either suspend the attack, let the 3 Admiral deal with the imminent disaster, and give Whitebeard time to evacuate. Chapter 42. One punch to fly the hero Garp. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. How can it be? 100,000 Marine officers watched this scene, their eyes widened, and their eyes showed unbelievable colors. Looking at the sinking island, there are huge waves coming from both sides. In everyone's hearts. In addition to shock, it is shock. Can we really beat Whitebeard? This idea suddenly appeared in the minds of all Marine officers. As soon as this thought appeared, it encroached on people's brains, making them tremble with fear on their faces. Some faint-hearted people even exaggeratedly discarded their weapons. The whole person knelt to the ground, unable to stand up anymore, and there was a panic in his mouth. This kind of monster, how could we be opponents? It's over, everything is over. Run, run, get out of here, or we will be buried in the bottom of the sea. The timid Marine yelled in despair. They want to leave here, leave this terrible place. I don't even want to continue fighting with Whitebeard, because in their opinion, even if Marine has 100,000 soldiers, it is impossible to be Whitebeard's opponent. Pity. In the landslides, they have nowhere to escape. So that they collapsed to the ground one by one, looking around blankly, as if giving up resistance. Whitebeard, you bastard! Sengoku roared angrily. He understood what Whitebeard was thinking. I just wanted to use the lives of 100,000 Marine soldiers to buy time for myself. This guy is stronger than before. A look of shock appeared in Garp's eyes on the side. Advertisement. He is an old friend who has played against Whitebeard for many years, and he knows all about Whitebeard's strength. At its peak, Whitebeard could indeed sink Marineford. But there is no exaggeration to this level. Just a punch. The mountains collapsed, the islands sank. The seas on both sides of the island centered on the islands are also full of waves. This terrible movement made him a little bit shy. Marshal Sengoku, what should I do now? The Ghost Spider Vice Admiral hurriedly asked. As Whitebeard said, now either continue to attack or organize personnel to quell this natural disaster. Otherwise, 100,000 Marine soldiers will be buried here together. Damn it. Sengoku took a sigh of relief, then looked at the 3 Admiral on the side, immediately let the tsunami stop, and at the same time organize the evacuation of personnel below Rear Admiral from Marineford. Although angry and unwilling, but as a marshal, he must make a decision. At the same time, I also understand that Whitebeard's strength is too strong, and the soldiers under Rear Admiral can't help at all. Rather than let these people stay and disturb the military's mind. Might as well evacuate all. Otherwise, Whitebeard will have another devastating attack, and they will stop to protect these ordinary soldiers. Leave it to me to organize the evacuation. Kizaru offered to invite Ying. Then regardless of Sengoku's disagreement, he turned around and left. Quote? Akainu felt something was wrong. To evacuate 100,000 Marine soldiers in this panic situation, it is true that someone with high prestige is required to take command to avoid chaos. Kizaru took the initiative to undertake this task, which is also the past. But, I don't know if it is his illusion. Advertisement. I always feel that the real reason for Kizaru to take this task is that he doesn't want to fight Whitebeard, let alone participate in the next thing. It's a pity that he didn't wait for him to understand, and there was a low drink in his ear. I saw Aokiji jumped up, and frost sprayed out. Ice Age. The Ice Age under full power is several times more horrible than the Ice Age when water was released before. The frost spread like a raging wave, rushing to both sides of the island. The huge wave, which had the power to destroy the sky and the earth, was slowly freezing. But, just when the ice was half frozen, a tall figure rushed into the air, and hit Aokiji with a punch. Yes, Whitebeard. Aokiji is the number 1 admiral in the strategic sense of marine. Its ability can seal the sea and make the land. Once Aokiji was allowed to freeze Marineford and the surrounding waters, the situation would be bad. Whitebeard, your opponent is me. When a punch was about to hit Aokiji, another figure intercepted him. Marine hero Garp. At this time, Garp didn't have the same laughter as before, but was full of seriousness, and the breath on his body was even more terrifying. Armament hockey shrouded his arm, and he faced Whitebeard's punch. Boom. A terrifying bang. The two banged fist to fist. Purple thunder and lightning slid across the center of the collision, and turbulent air waves were generated and spread to the surroundings. Then, Garp felt a terrible force. This kind of power actually gave him an irresistible feeling. How can it be? Garp's eyes widened, his face full of shock. Advertisement. That's right. Just shock. In any case, he couldn't understand how Whitebeard's strength could soar so much. Even his old opponent could not resist. Boom. Power bursts. No matter how strong Garp was, he couldn't withstand a punch in a double state. Julie drowned Garp, his sturdy body shot straight down like a cannonball, and then hit the ruins with a loud noise. Wow. Smoke and dust filled, billowing. The Marine soldiers and many generals who were being evacuated watched this scene blankly. There was a look of astonishment and disbelief on everyone's face. Who is Garp? The legendary seaman of Naval Headquarters. When he was young, he pushed the One Piece Roger into desperation several times. But such a master. But in this collision, Whitebeard punched and flew. Shocked, panicked, horrified. Various emotions surfaced in the hearts of many Marine soldiers, making them almost yelled out loud. There was a thought in my mind that made everyone desperate. Even Garp is not an opponent. Who else in Marine can beat Whitebeard? For a time, the morale of all Marines dissipated. Confidence was even beaten by Whitebeard. Chapter 43. Smash Aokiji and win the war. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Garp. Sengoku yelled anxiously, shocked also appeared on his face. He and Garp have been friends for many years, and it is natural to see that Garp is not merciful. But even so, still flew out with a punch from Whitebeard. What does this show? This shows that Whitebeard's strength has suddenly skyrocketed, and it has risen to the point where he can ignore Garp. Perplexity, doubt, consternation. Various emotions hung over Sengoku's heart. He couldn't understand how he thought about it, why Whitebeard suddenly became so strong. Ahem. Then the cough sounded. Garp, who was bombarded in the ruins, pushed away the rocks on his body and struggled to stand up. Looking in the direction of Whitebeard, his complexion became ultimate. What happened? Sengoku asked in a deep voice. I don't know, but Whitebeard's punch just now completely surpassed me, giving me the feeling of facing two Whitebeards. Garp shook his head, his tone extremely heavy. Two Whitebeards. Sengoku gasped. A Whitebeard makes them headaches. If you have double the strength, that's not bad. Boy Aokiji, I can't let you go on. Just when Garp and Sengoku were shocked, a deep voice resounded across the sky. Everyone listened to this and looked up. I saw Whitebeard blasting away at Garp, and he took a leap again. Advertisement. The breath on his body spread like a storm, and the light group was enveloped in his fist, and he smashed towards Aokiji. Not good. Sengoku and Garp's faces changed drastically. Want to support, but it's too late. Aokiji, who had been freezing with the huge wave, was startled, and without thinking about it, he retracted his arm and pushed forward at the same time. Ice Age. Aokiji with all his strength is terrible to ultimate. Just push. The moisture in the air froze instantly, and the frost sprayed along the air towards Whitebeard. At the same time, an ice wall formed in front. This ice wall is extremely thick, several meters wide, like a huge shield, blocking it. Boom. The ice and shock waves hit, and the roar continued. Then, under the horrified eyes of people, the frost exploded violently, turning into countless icy debris splashing. At the same time blocked the huge ice shield in front of Aokiji. Also under a punch. Shattered. Click. Cracks appeared on the steel-hard ice shield, and then exploded. And Whitebeard's punch. Aokiji was also shocked and shocked. A terrible shock raged across the body, and the astonishment on Aokiji's face quickly turned into horror. Strength. Unparalleled power. In front of this power, he, Admiral, has a feeling of being beaten to death. Boom. The body fell like a cannonball. Amidst the roar and loud noise, it hit the ruins hard and raised countless dust. The soldiers who were desperate because of Garp's bombardment were hit again. Because of Whitebeard's strength, they refreshed their imagination time and time again. Advertisement. That ultimate power. Let people not afford any courage to resist. Wow. A low groan sounded. People were alarmed and turned to look around. The bombed Aokiji climbed up from the pile of rocks, then supported the ground with both hands, spitting scarlet blood from his mouth. The punch just now was Whitebeard's full punch. And this full force also contains the peak state and twice the strength. Such a terrible blow. Even if Aokiji is Admiral, he has suffered a lot. How come? Smoker trembled, and a sense of powerlessness rose in his heart. Because Aokiji is Admiral. As the world's top powerhouse, Admiral has now been hit hard. That's right. Not injured, but severely injured. If it's just an injury, he wouldn't be surprised. After all, Whitebeard claims to be the strongest in the world, and it's not a big deal to hurt Admiral. But hitting hard is different. And he hit an Admiral badly. While this made him feel ridiculous, he also felt the horror of Whitebeard. This kind of horror made him terrified. The strongest man in the world, is he really so strong? Doberman, known as the iron-blooded Vice Admiral, looked at Whitebeard blankly at this time, and the fighting spirit in his heart slowly dissipated. Damn it. The rest of Vice Admiral skimmed his head, gritted his teeth, his eyes were deeply unwilling. The injury of Aokiji Admiral made everyone understand one thing. That is, this war is going to be lost. Because Aokiji is a strategic admiral, able to seal the sea and make the land. Advertisement. Now that he was hit hard, he could no longer stop the sinking of the island and the huge waves from both sides. If you don't want everyone to die here, you can only evacuate temporarily. Hume. What a war that shocked the world. After this battle, the name of Whitebeard will become a nightmare for all Marines. Brother Ming, who still hasn't left, laughed wildly. He knows that after this war, the name of Whitebeard will surpass anyone in the world and become the most prestigious king in the new world. Gu la la la. Sengoku, I won this war. Whitebeard's figure fell back to the ground, his hand raised, and the sword pointed straight at Sengoku. The moment the words fell, the surging sound of the huge wave sounded. Although Aokiji used the Ice Age just now, he was interrupted by Whitebeard in the middle, so that it was only half frozen. Now the other half of the sea is surging, seeming to submerge the island. So, Marine again faces two choices. Either order Marine soldiers to hold Whitebeard and use the lives of tens of thousands of soldiers to bury Whitebeard. Either choose to evacuate and wait to return to the warship before pursuing it. Other than that, there is no choice. Whitebeard. Sengoku gritted his teeth, his chest heaving violently because of his anger, his face turned purple. Sengoku, withdraw. Garp sighed. The island was about to sink, and Aokiji was hit hard again. They had no place to stay and they had to leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, everyone present will be buried with the island. Certainly, this is not the most important. The important thing is, once they returned to the warship and wanted to pursue Whitebeard, it was not that simple. So this war, it was they who lost. Asterisk. Chapter 44. Akainu of Absolute Justice. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Quote. Sengoku fell silent, squeezing his fist tightly. He knows the impact of his evacuation order. At that time, the news of the defeat of Marineford will definitely spread all over the world. Marine's majesty plummeted as a result. For this reason, New World and Seahai will also have a large number of pirates. So the retreat order came at once. The era of the great pirates may come soon. Sengoku. Looking at Sengoku who hadn't responded for a long time, Garp grabbed Sengoku by the collar and shouted. Huh. Sengoku took a deep breath, picked up the phone worm with some trembling, and shouted in a hoarse voice. All Marines follow the order, leave Marineford. After saying this, he closed his eyes. The whole person seemed to be more than 10 years old in an instant. Deterring New World by executing Ace was his plan. If successful, Marine's majesty skyrocketed and the number of pirates decreased. But now, it failed. So it is conceivable that this will have much impact on Marine, and I am afraid that it will no longer be able to suppress New World in the future. Marshal Sengoku. All Vice Admirals showed sorrow. They know how much pressure Sengoku has to endure when issuing such orders. All the responsibilities will be borne by me alone. All Marine officers and men, leave immediately. Sengoku took a deep breath and yelled at the phone bug. Yes. The soldiers responded with a bang. While organizing personnel to leave, resisting the influx of water waves. However, The water waves were so high that even if marine officers resisted it with all their strength, it did not achieve much. In just a short time, most of the island was submerged. Advertisement. Some unlucky marines fell directly into the water after being washed by the waves, and then shouted for help. At the beginning, there were people who went to the rescue. But more and more seamen fell into the water and couldn't be saved. Don't pay attention, continue to retreat. Kizaru shouted. There are a lot of people on the island, and it is not so easy to evacuate immediately. If you still think about rescue, then wait to die together. Therefore, those who fell into the water must be given up. Only in this way can most of the forces be withdrawn. Damn it. Smoker gritted his teeth. But I also know that this command is extremely correct at the moment. So he could only turn his head and continue to use his abilities to roll up the seamen around him and throw them on the warship. Let's leave too. Crane Vice Admiral sighed, then looked at Sengoku and Garp. Marineford will sink soon. Quote. Sengoku did not reply, but looked at Whitebeard ahead and said in an old voice, Whitebeard, you have won this war. But, Marine hasn't lost yet. Next, no matter where you escape, I will catch you. He had already decided, and immediately pursued Whitebeard after returning to the warship. As long as you catch Whitebeard in the follow-up, the war is not a complete failure. Gu la la la. Sengoku, I will be waiting for you on this sea. Whitebeard laughed fearlessly. Go. Sengoku didn't say anything, and turned away with a group of soldiers. With the evacuation of 100,000 marine soldiers and Sengoku and others. In the original position, only 2 people were left standing. One person is naturally Whitebeard. And the other is Akainu. That's right. Advertisement. Akainu did not leave. Rather, he glared at Whitebeard, his body smelt continuously. How can you escape safely? How can you trample on Marine's majesty at will? Akainu was furious. He who firmly believes in absolute justice cannot accept this result at all. Obviously called 7 warlords of the sea and 100,000 soldiers. But he was beaten and fled in embarrassment. If this news spreads out, how can Marine still gain a foothold in New World? So no matter what, he has to make Whitebeard pay the price and maintain Marine's only majesty. Magma boy, haven't you had enough trouble? Whitebeard didn't care. Although the 3-minute double card has ended, Sengoku and the others also evacuated. Akainu, who was alone, was not in his eyes at all. Because he returned to his peak state. If it's just singled out. No one in the whole world will be his opponent. I will take your head off with my own hands and let those bastards in New World know the fate of offending Marine. Akainu yelled. As the words fell, his arms waved. The molten lava filled it, turned into a huge fist mark, and slammed into Whitebeard. Dark Hound. This blow is almost ultimate. It just rushed to Whitebeard in an instant, as if to pierce Whitebeard. Gu la la la. Magma boy, you are too arrogant. Whitebeard smiled lowly. The fist was raised sideways and smashed into the air. Boom. There was a loud noise. The shock wave spread like a raging wave, slammed into the magma fist print, and exploded the fist print. After the blow, Whitebeard raised his broad knife and rushed in a straight line. Advertisement. The island is about to sink, and he has no time to delay. And, once all Marine was evacuated. With Sengoku's character, he will definitely pursue the Whitebeard pirates. So he had to return to the Moby Dick before Sengoku gave orders, and then left with the fleet. Whitebeard, die for me. Seeing Whitebeard rushing, Akainu was not afraid, and threw his fist in a roar. But, Whitebeard did not hide. It seems that Akainu is allowed to attack himself. When he was about to be hit, he raised his arm, his palms were densely covered with armament hockey, and grabbed Akainu's fist. CC. The blazing high temperature filled the palms with white smoke. But Whitebeard ignored it, and squeezed it tightly so that the other party couldn't break free. Not good. Akainu's face changed drastically. Before he could react, he saw Whitebeard thrust his big knife into the ground, clenching his fist, and there was a ball of light on it. Magma boy. A deep voice rang in Akainu's ears. Then he saw that a huge fist hit him. Boom. Loud roar. Akainu, who was so arrogant just now, was hit to the ground with a punch. As the shock wave spread, his head continued to sink. Click. The ground exploded. Akainu's face was bloody, and Whitebeard was pressed into the pit. The body is struggling violently, but no matter how struggling, you can't get rid of it. Chapter 45. Abolish one hand of Akainu. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Whitebeard. Akainu roared. This is the second time. As admiral, he was so crushed. The anger in his heart was tumbling, and the temperature of his body rose rapidly, causing a puff of white smoke to rise from Whitebeard's arm. The flame burned and spread along the arm. Whitebeard felt a sting, but didn't let go. Instead, he continued to press Akainu to the ground while raising his fist and hitting it heavily. Boom. The force of the shaking spreads. Akainu, who couldn't break free, was hit directly into the ground. Damn, damn, damn. Akainu was angry with Ultimate. In any case, I can't understand why, as Admiral, I am not an opponent of Whitebeard. And, not only was he not an opponent, he was crushed like this by Whitebeard. Magma Kid. Whitebeard didn't know what Akainu was thinking, and grabbed the opponent by the collar. Then, threw it fiercely. At the moment of the fall, he quickly pulled up the Supreme Big Knife 12 skills next to him Kong Yunchi. Hockey covers it. Before and after Akainu fell to his eyes, Kong Yun chopped down. Stabbed. The sharp light suddenly appeared. Without giving Akainu time to react, Dao Mang came to him, as if he was about to chop off his head. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Akainu's eyes shrunk into needle-like awns, and yelled at the very moment, "Don't think about it." The arm turned into a hot molten slurry and blocked in front of his head. Advertisement. Boom. The fiery flame exploded. At the same time, there was a scream. When the fire dissipated, one arm fell to the ground, blood flowed out, and the ground was stained red. And Akainu's figure also emerged for it. Although he did not die, his left hand became empty. Akainu broke his arm, although Whitebeard's knife didn't cut off Akainu's head. But it made Akainu pay a certain price. The left hand used to resist the attack is directly cut off, even if the opponent is a person with natural fruit ability, it cannot be recovered. The severe pain spread across Akainu's body. The body fell backwards, and then smashed into the water waves. Because of being a capable person, Akainu couldn't resist at all, and slowly sank. Whitebeard. You bastard, how dare you take my arm? Feeling weak, Akainu said intermittently with an angry tone. But before he could finish speaking, he was submerged by water waves. And Whitebeard also looked around. It was found that Marineford had sunk 99%, leaving him within a radius of 5 meters, still on the surface of the sea. At the same time, the Sengoku group who returned to the warship also approached this position. Must leave. Whitebeard squatted down, then leapt up with all his strength. Boom. The only place left on the island exploded. Whitebeard also leapt up, rushing towards the endless sea. When it reaches a certain height, falls quickly. If no one answers, then even if Whitebeard leaves the island, he will sink to the bottom of the sea because of fear of water. But, it was only halfway through Whitebeard. A huge figure appeared for it, wide palms opened, and stopped firmly under Whitebeard. Advertisement. Seeing this, Whitebeard flipped. Step on both palms with one foot, then leap up again, and finally land on the boat. This ship is the Moby Dick. It turned out that after the crew of the Whitebeard pirates evacuated, they did not leave, but waited not far from the bay. Seeing Marine retreat, he immediately returned to the island. So there is the present scene. Father. An excited voice came from behind. Whitebeard turned his head to look, and saw Marco and Ace and others, who were running over happily and surrounded Whitebeard. At the same time, other ships of the pirate group also rushed in. After seeing Whitebeard return safely, he gave a fierce cheer. Father. Great. Father returned safely. Ha 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 ha. Of course, Dad is the strongest man in the world, even if Marine prepares 100,000 soldiers, what about it? This battle is a big victory, see who else dares to provoke us in the future. The crew cheered loudly. They won the victory in this battle. Obstructed by 100,000 Marine and 7 warlords of the sea, rescued Ace and left safely. This battle will shake the world. The Whitebeard pirates will also surpass other 4 emperors and become the strongest in the world. I said, there will be nothing wrong with my father. Beasta leaned in and laughed. Those Marine generals are not Dad's opponents at all, how could he keep Dad behind? Joe said proudly. Yes. The other captains glanced at each other and then laughed. Whitebeard, you really accomplished an unprecedented feat. Ryder was amazed. Advertisement. Someone has broken through Marineford before. And that person is Golden Lion. However, Golden Lion did not succeed, but was defeated by Sengoku and Garp and sent to impel down. But Whitebeard is different. Under the obstacles of 100,000 Marine elites, many Vice Admiral, 7 warlords of the sea, 3 Admiral, Sengoku Marshal and the hero Garp. Still rescued Ace, and successfully escaped without sacrifice. While escaping, also sunk Marineford. Once such a horrible record comes out, Whitebeard's reputation may surpass that of One Piece Roger. Old Whitebeard. The same goes for Crocodile on the side. Originally, he wanted to wait for the end of the war to challenge Whitebeard again to avenge his revenge. But after seeing the strength of Whitebeard, but I dare not think about it anymore. Knowing that he is not an opponent of Whitebeard at all. Goo la la la. Now is not the time to be happy, let's get out of here first. Whitebeard laughed. Speaking, came to the bow of the mobile. Looking into the distance, I saw warships coming in this direction. Obviously, Sengoku hasn't given up on the pursuit. If you want to truly win this war, you must get rid of these warships. At this point, my arms are raised. As the fist fell, the force of the shock spread. Boom. The shocking waves rolled up and rushed towards the distant warship, making the chasing warships have to stop. The Whitebeard pirates also took the opportunity to sail far away. Finally disappeared in front of all marine soldiers. Asterisk. Chapter 46. Red Hair is coming. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Wow. The sky-shaking waves fell heavily. The chasing warship pulled away with the distance and disappeared in front of the eyes. Seeing that the crew of the Whitebeard pirates finally got rid of the pursuit, they cheered. Successfully escaped. Ha 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 ha. Of course, Dad's ability can easily set off waves, and the sea is Dad's territory. This war is over, we have won. Can't help them being so happy. Because this war is unprecedented in history. It is impossible to win on any pirate group. But, they won. Created an unprecedented miracle. In cheers, all the crew looked at the figure standing on the top of the mobile, with a look of worship and admiration in their eyes. This man is their father. It is also the man who led them to win the war and deserved their allegiance to the death for a lifetime. Goo la la la. Feeling the admiration of the sons, Whitebeard turned around, opened his arms, and laughed loudly. The sons, the banquet. Oh, I must get drunk this time. Ah, damn it, I can't get up because I am injured now. Haha, Delot, you just watch us drink the bar. The crew cheered and laughed. Soon, all kinds of food and wine are in front of you. Whitebeard returned to his seat, grabbed the jar, lifted it, and poured the wine into his mouth. Seeing this, the other crew members also ate and drank. Advertisement. The war has just ended, so there is a banquet. Ivankov clutched his hair, his face was full of panic. If I get drunk, what if Marine catches up? Goo la la la. Whitebeard heard this and put down the jar again. If the guy Sengoku was chasing, then fight another round, maybe removing his arm, that's not bad. Yes. The crew laughed. The reason why we came to the sea is for this kind of life. The crew member called Doll was lying on the board with a white bandage. Although he could not stand up, he held a bowl of wine in his hand. If you can't live freely, what's the point of it? After speaking, he drank the wine in the bowl in one gulp. Perhaps it was because of too much movement and bleeding from the bandage on his body. But he ignored it and continued to cheer with his companions. Cheers, celebrate the victory of this war. The crew's drinking bowls collided, and laughter resounded in the surrounding waters. And Ace also came to Whitebeard amidst laughter, and looked at Whitebeard and his companions, his eyes turned red. Father. Dot and everyone. Ace clenched his fist tightly. Before, he was always looking for answers to whether he should be born. But after this battle, he knew that he was not alone, and that everyone on the ship was his family. So he wanted to express his gratitude through this banquet. But, before Ace could speak, I felt a hand covering my head. Looking up, I found Whitebeard was drinking wine and squinting at himself. Goo la la la, it's banquet time. Don't be so sad at the time of the banquet. Whitebeard smiled casually. Ace. Advertisement. Marco on the side raised his head, a smile appeared on his face. The family doesn't need so much politeness. He knew that Ace wanted to express his gratitude. But family members should support each other. As Whitebeard said before, they went to save Ace, just to save their brother. Ha 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 ha. Ace, are you standing in front of everyone? Do you want to cry for everyone? Busta not far away laughed loudly. The last time Ace cried, was it when he first got on the boat. At that time, I was defeated hundreds of times by my father. It's really embarrassing. The crew laughed. You. Not only was Ace not angry when he heard this, but his heart surged, and tears couldn't stop streaming down. He knew that these ridicules were just another comfort to him. As Marco said, family members don't need so much politeness. He wiped away the tears, the smile bloomed again, and then joined the cheering team. The banquet continues. It wasn't until a few hours later that I could not stop. The drunk crew members lay crookedly on the shipboard. These guys. Marco gave a wry smile, then walked towards Whitebeard. At the banquet, he left for a while. During this period, he used the phone worm to contact the various sites under the Whitebeard pirate group to investigate the situation outside. Father, I just contacted the outside world. Whitebeard opened his eyes. The site under our name has not been attacked yet, but according to the information we received, when we attacked Marineford, Kaido tried to attack the town under our name, but was stopped by Red Hair. Advertisement. Also, the ant pirates have changed, but the specific movement is unknown. Marco said solemnly. Yes. Whitebeard didn't pay attention to this. Kaido kid, do you have the courage to shoot at me now? After speaking, he waved his hand to show that he didn't care. Because of this kind of thing, as long as the news of his victory spreads, it can be solved. Father. At this moment, Joe's hurried over. A large fleet of ships was found ahead, and they are still approaching us. What? As Marine chasing it? Marco was taken aback. No, They are all pirate fleets. Judging from the flag, they are the supernovae from the Grand Line. Joe shook his head. Supernova. Whitebeard suddenly heard this. I remember that when the original book was on top of the war, those supernovae were watching the battle in the nearby waters. Among them, Luo also rescued Luffy, the Straw Hat. And besides those supernovas, there is also a special ship. He raised his arm and pointed forward. The two followed their fingers and looked. I saw a three-masted sailing ship approaching in the sea ahead. At the top of the ship's mast, a pirate flag with two red bars was hung. The people present are very familiar with this flag. Because of this flag, it is the red-haired flag of one of the four emperors. In other words, the red hair is coming. Chapter 47. The red hair is dumbfounded. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Goo la la la. As the red-haired boy here. He really came in time. Whitebeard laughed, then looked at Joe's on the side. Let the helmsman turn the rudder and move closer to the red force. Yes. Joe stepped back quickly. Soon, the two ships stopped 10 meters apart. Father, let me say hello. Marco said. The relationship between red-hair pirates and Whitebeard pirates is very special. Both an enemy and a friend. The enemy is because Whitebeard and Red Hair are both four emperors, and the four emperors have always been in opposition on this sea. My friend came to drink on the Moby Dick because of the red hair. Over time, the crew of the two teams have a good relationship. But now is a special time, he dare not let his father take risks when he hasn't figured out the purpose of red hair. Whitebeard nodded. Marco rushed away quickly when he was ordered. After arriving at the bow, he jumped up and jumped onto the red force. At this time, the red-haired group was already waiting there. Seeing Marco, who was all embarrassed and still had a serious look on his face, his heart suddenly burst. After repelling Kaido, he came as quickly as possible. Hoped to save Whitebeard and stop this war. Unexpectedly, when the ship was only halfway open, the Whitebeard fleet was discovered, and the ships of the Whitebeard fleet were seriously damaged. At that time, he had a bad feeling. Advertisement. Now I see Marco who is wounded and has a serious face. Suddenly thought he was a step late, and Whitebeard had already died in Marineford. It seems we are late. Ben Beckman took a puff of cigarette, his tone a little low. Although Whitebeard died, his fleet was successfully evacuated, so he is not a failure. Usopp on the side. Marco, who just wanted to ask why the red hair came from, was dumbfounded after hearing these words, with question marks hung over his head. However, this expression is an expression of excessive sadness in the eyes of the red hair. He sighed in his heart and walked to Marco. Feel sorry. We were blocked by Kaido, so we were a step late. But Marco, you have to cheer up. Although Whitebeard is dead, you are still alive. As the captain of the team, you must cheer up and deal with the next thing. The red hair said condensely, and patted Marco on the shoulder at the same time. If there is any need, it is our duty to red hair pirates. Yes, we and the Whitebeard pirates are also old friends. No matter what happens next, we will do our best to help you. Deputy Captain Ben Beckman said seriously. What are you talking about? Marco twitched his mouth and spread his hands helplessly. Daddy is fine, and he's on the Moby Dick. Really? You will cheer up, Red Hair said to himself. But before he finished speaking, he stopped. Then he looked at Marco dumbfounded. Ben Beckman, Usopp and others were also taken aback, staring at Marco in amazement. What did they hear? Is Whitebeard who went to the naval headquarters to save people alive? Advertisement. Is this? Just kidding. A trace of doubt climbed onto his face, causing the red hair to ask with a trace of disbelief. Marco, you mean? It's no wonder he thinks so, that Whitebeard is dead. As soon as Whitebeard's fleet suffered a lot of damage, he knew it had gone through a big battle at a glance. Secondly, Marco made that expression as soon as he got on the boat. 3 is also the most important point. That's where Whitebeard broke into his Marineford. Marine's headquarters. In order to deal with Whitebeard, Marine summoned 100,000 Marine officers and 7 warlords of the sea. This kind of power, let alone a 4 emperors group. Even if 2 groups of 4 emperors pass, they may not win. So not only him, nobody in the world is optimistic about Whitebeard, let alone that Whitebeard can come back alive from Marineford. It is also for this reason. Kaido and Andy fight for Whitebeard's turf. Yes, father is still alive. Marco nodded proudly. Daddy is the strongest man in the world, how could he die in Marineford? Those Marines are not Daddy's opponents. The words fall. The redhead was dumbfounded. Ben Beckman was stunned. Usopp and the other crew members were also stunned. Whitebeard, who thought he had been killed in the battle at Marineford, was alive and managed to escape from there. Doubt, shock, joy. All kinds of emotions surround my heart, so that a group of people can't say a word. It took a long time for the red hair to wake up from the shock. But he was not happy, but sighed. So Ace is dead. In his opinion, Since Whitebeard was alive and successfully escaped, it must have failed to save Ace. Advertisement. Since there is no rescue, it means that Ace has been executed. Redhead, what are you talking about? Not only is Dad okay, Ace was also rescued by us. In this war, our Whitebeard pirates won the battle. Marco proudly said. The words fell, and the surroundings fell silent. Even if the red hair was 4 emperors, well informed, and had a big heart, he couldn't say a word that was surprised by these words. Ben Beckman and Usopp are the famous New World powerhouses. They also grow up mouths one by one, and their faces are full of consternation. Whitebeard is still alive. Not only was he still alive, but he also saved Ace from the hands of 100,000 Marine soldiers, escaped successfully, and won the war. Is this a lie? Marco, what you said is true. The red hair couldn't help swallowing, and her tone was trembling. Of course. The reason why I came here is because the old man asked me to come. Marco laughed. Quote. The red hair pirates were silent collectively. Looking at each other, I saw shock in each other's eyes. Because Whitebeard really did it. From the hands of 100,000 Marine and 7 warlords of the sea, Ace, who was about to be executed, was rescued. Completed this unprecedented feat. Chapter 48. Dizzy Red Hair. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. It feels like a dream. Usopp murmured. When I heard Whitebeard was going to save Ace, most people's first thought is not how brave Whitebeard is. I was thinking about Whitebeard, dead. Because Marineford is the naval headquarters, 100,000 Marine officers have been summoned this time. No matter how strong the Whitebeard is, it will not succeed. But in this impossible situation, Whitebeard win. A feat that everyone thought could not be accomplished. Yes, others nodded. Red Hair woke up in surprise, and said with a hint of exclamation, it's really unimaginable how fierce this battle is. Before I came, I was still wondering if I could stop it, but now it seems that I don't have this chance. Correct. Since Whitebeard is still alive, take me over. Marco nodded at this. Following the jump, the two came to the bow of the mobile. The red hair also saw the figure in the center of the giant ship. The figure was still tall, and there was a suffocating aura gushing out of her body. Whitebeard. Although he knew that Whitebeard was alive, seeing it with his own eyes still shocked him. Goo la la la. Redhead boy, I heard you had a fight with Kaido. Seeing the red hair coming, Whitebeard didn't stand up, but laughed loudly. It's just a little conflict. After Kaido saw me, he didn't do anything. The red hair jumped down, came to Whitebeard, then looked up at Whitebeard. But it's okay not to look at it, and I was shocked when I saw it. Advertisement. Because the bottle hanging on Whitebeard's body was gone. An oppressive breath was released from the body. The strength of this breath surprised him, the 4 emperors. Strong and strong breath, like a new lion king in the grassland. You recovered. Shock flashed in the red hair's eyes and couldn't help asking. Goo la la la. I thought you would ask about Marineford, but I didn't expect to be curious about such small things. Whitebeard laughed. Redhead heard this and took a deep breath. Although Whitebeard didn't answer directly, he could guess the result from the tone of his speech. That is, Whitebeard really recovered. And it is very likely to return to the peak state. Otherwise, with Whitebeard in his 70s, it would never be possible to rescue Ace from Marineford. Wanting to understand this, a serious look suddenly appeared on his face. Now Whitebeard is back to top. And achieved such a brilliant record in this war. Once the news spreads, the world will shake, and the pattern of New World will change accordingly. As the 4 emperors, he must prepare in advance. Shanks. At this moment, an exclamation came. The red hair turned his head subconsciously, and a familiar face appeared. Buggy, why are you here? The red hair is full of joy. Hush. Buggy rushed over, covered the redhead's mouth, and pointed in a direction secretly. Advertisement. The red hair followed his fingers, astonishment flashed in his eyes. Former Shichibukai Jinbei, former Shichibukai Crocodile, Revolutionary Army Ivankov, Amazuna, Crescent Hunter Dai Peng, Giant Battleship Wolf, Big Wine Joet, and Pizarro. It is rumored that the masters imprisoned in Impel Down were all on the Whitebeard ship. Is this one of the reasons Whitebeard won? The red hair whispered. Who told you to watch them? Buggy hates iron but not steel. The redhead was puzzled. Then I saw 2 figures again. World Destroyer World, Red Earl Rider. After seeing the 2, the red-haired face once again appeared shocked. Unexpectedly, such a master is also on the Whitebeard ship. Buggy seemed to understand Shank's thoughts, and suddenly held his head, wishing to punch the redhead twice. The people he wanted Shanks to see were not these. What's the matter with you, Buggy? The red-haired face was puzzled. But at the moment when these words fell, a deep voice rang from my ears. Shanks kid. Red hair listened for a moment, and felt that the voice was very familiar. Turning his head slightly, his body shook violently when he saw the person making the noise. Bar. Mr. Bullet. The red hair was dumbfounded. Who did he see? Douglas Bullet, the original crew member of Roger Pirates. Advertisement. When he was still a trainee crew member, Bullet trained their recruits. When I think of Bullet's training on himself, my heart feels abrupt. The little devil who practiced on the ship at the time turned out to be the 4 emperors of the New World. This world is really unpredictable. Bullet opened his eyes, glanced at his red hair, and then closed it again. Redhead's ability to achieve this kind of achievement really surprised him. But that's it. Because he is not interested in red hair. The reason why I still stayed in the Whitebeard Pirates is because I want to complete the previous goal, defeat Whitebeard, and win the world's strongest name. Speaking of which, you were all Roger's crew members, and you have known each other a long time ago. Marco on the side gave a big smile. But from now on, Bullet will be a crew member of our Whitebeard Pirates. He heard. Bullet has to challenge his father. And he is willing to pay any price if he loses. Out of my understanding of my father, I know that Bullet is likely to become his brother. Oh. The red hair regained consciousness from the dumbfounded. But as soon as he finished replying, his eyes widened, and he almost didn't choke on his saliva. What did Marco just say? Mr. Bullet is going on Whitebeard's ship. Doesn't this mean that Bullet is going to be Whitebeard's son? Thinking of this, the redhead's head was dizzy, and he glanced at Buggy, wondering if he was dreaming. Chapter 49. Red hair means to slow down. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Redhead took a deep breath and shook her head to wake herself from the shock. Red-haired boy, when you come to my boat, don't you just want to see how many people are on my boat? Whitebeard said slowly. With a wave of his hand, Marco on the side immediately took out 2 large bowls and filled them. Of course not. Redhead woke up in shock and shook his head. After picking up the bowl, he took a gulp and asked everything about Marineford. Whitebeard has not concealed this kind of problem. Tell the story of the war again. This. Redhead looked at Whitebeard dumbfounded after listening. As the 4 emperors, he thought he was knowledgeable. Even if the battle on the top was fierce, he would be surprised at best. But after hearing what Whitebeard said, he was completely shocked. First ran to impel down to release the prisoner. Then he took the prisoners and the Whitebeard pirates and stormed Marineford. That's right. It's a storm. Even though Marine has gathered 100,000 soldiers, there is no fear. This courage shocked him. You are the only one who can make such a bold act and achieve success in the entire world. The red hair exclaimed. He knew how terrifying Marine's power was. If you change to someone else, you can't succeed at all. Advertisement. Kaido is impossible, the ant is impossible, and the Revolutionary Army is impossible. Even myself. Impossible. With so many forces in the world, only Whitebeard can do it. Hey, it's not a big deal. In order to stop the old man, Sengoku sent 3 Admiral to block him, but the 3 Admiral is not his opponent at all. Aokiji and Kizaru were badly injured by a punch from the old man. Akainu was cut off by an arm by his father. Now he has sunk into the sea, and I don't know if he is dead or not. If it hadn't been for the old man to take care of us, I am afraid that Marineford would have been ruined long ago. Marco on the side was extremely proud. Ahem. Marco, what did you say? The red hair, who had just recovered from the shock, almost squirted the wine out of his mouth, looking at Marco with a dazed expression. 3. Who is Admiral? The highest combat power of the headquarters, suppress the entire New World. Now that the 3 of them attacked Whitebeard together. Not only didn't stop him, but was seriously injured by Whitebeard alone. Among them, Akainu lost an arm and sank to the bottom of the sea, wondering if he was dead. This is definitely not talking about drama. He looked at Buggy aside with shock and astonishment. It seems to ask again. Is this true? Buggy felt the red-haired gaze and nodded without hesitation. Quote. Redhead was silent. He was not doubting the truth of this incident, but was shocked to the point that he didn't know what to say. Fight against 3 Admiral with one's own strength and win. I am afraid that only Whitebeard can accomplish this feat in this world. Now he was shocked besides being shocked. Advertisement. Goo la la la. Although the strength of those 3 boys is good, they are not enough. Whitebeard smiled while drinking. Not enough. The redhead twitched at the corner of his mouth and was completely convinced by Whitebeard. If 3 Admirals' strength is not enough, no one in the world dare to say that he is a master. Take a deep breath and recover from the shock. Since it is certain that Whitebeard is safe and well aware of the battle at Marineford, there is no need for him to stay here. Get up now to say goodbye. Seeing this, Whitebeard nodded, then suddenly thought of something, deliberately pretending to know nothing. You should know Luffy in the straw hat, and your lost arm is probably related to him, right? He is on my boat right now, aren't you going to meet Luffy? The red hair who had already jumped to the bow of the ship was taken aback, turned around, and a touch of surprise appeared on his face. But soon fell silent, and finally shook his head. Forget it, now is not the time to meet. By the way, that kid Luffy is impulsive. Since he is on your boat, please take care of me. Can. Whitebeard nodded. No matter how red hair helped him block Kaido, and Luffy also helped save Ace, who was also Ace's younger brother. Such small things are naturally no problem. Then. Bye. The red hair who got the answer jumped up and jumped back to his boat. The other crew members of Red Hair Pirates also gathered around. Captain, how is it? Whitebeard is indeed alive, and he has returned to his peak state. The red hair said solemnly. Advertisement. What? All the crew members changed their faces when they heard this. Redhead knew this would happen, so she ignored it, and retold everything she had heard before. Ben Beckman and others were completely stunned after listening. Bullet and others boarded Whitebeard's ship. Whitebeard alone against 3 Admiral. Wounded 3 Admiral and sank Marineford, and then managed to escape. A group of people only felt their heads dizzy. I wonder if I heard it wrong. Ship. Captain, are you sure this is true? Lakilu didn't even eat the chicken drumsticks, and stared at the redhead dumbfounded. The redhead nodded. Everyone heard this again, and it took a long time before they were relieved. Although I don't know the specifics, if this is true, then New World will definitely change dramatically. Ben Beckman took a deep breath, his face a touch of solemnity. Yes. The red hair nodded with feeling, and said, looking towards the endless sea, I don't know whether this change is good or bad, let alone where Whitebeard will pull the trajectory of the times. Whitebeard is back to top. And win this battle of the century. Also called Bullet these masters. Regardless of their own strength, or overall strength, they have been greatly improved. Once news of the Battle of Marineford came out, Whitebeard may become the king of the world. Chapter 50. Shocking Supernova. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The red hair is gone. With full of shock, he headed towards the distant sea. The Whitebeard pirates also set sail again, preparing to return to their territory. However, before traveling far, several fleets came from distant waters, seeming to want to fight the Whitebeard pirates. Father, those supernovas. Joes came over. Goo la la la. Those little ghosts from the first half of the Grand Line, do they want to attack us? Whitebeard took a sip and smiled carelessly. Supernova is called the most evil generation. But, these supernovae are too weak for the captains of Whitebeard and the Whitebeard pirates. How weak is it? So weak that Whitebeard can destroy all supernova fleets with a single punch. Because, now is not 2 years from now. On top of the supernovas of the war period are a group of hairy boys from the first half of the Grand Line. Although the name is loud, but the strength is weak and scary. Father, do you want to destroy them? Marco was a little dissatisfied. They are the famous Whitebeard pirates of New World. Even if Marine pursues it, a group of hairy boys dare to surround themselves, so why do both cats and dogs dare to be presumptuous in front of the Whitebeard pirates? Goo la la la. Go up and have a look. Whitebeard stood up and walked towards the bow of the mobile with a knife in his hand, looking into the distance. I saw several pirate ships approaching in the distant waters. Looking at the flags, you can find the Kid Pirates, Heart Pirates, Drake Pirates, Flame Tank Pirates, Pawnee Pirates, Broken Monk Pirates, Hawkins Pirates, and Broadcast Pirates. Advertisement. The supernova from the first half of the Grand Line is basically here. On the endless sea, the combined supernova fleet approached the Whitebeard pirates. On the bow, the major captains stood in front, with solemn faces on their faces. You should know that this behavior is likely to destroy us. Kira, wearing a blue mask on her head, whispered. Hey. Of course I know, but this is the only way to determine whether Whitebeard is alive. And we are not going to attack the Whitebeard pirates. As long as we get the result, we will retreat immediately. Kid, wearing a red coat with a hedgehog head, sneered. When the live broadcast of the war at the top ended, their supernova pirate group came to the sea near the headquarters to watch. Witnessed after the sinking of Marineford. So everyone wants to know the result of this war of the century. It was Whitebeard who buried the island and Marine won the final victory. It was Whitebeard who led his pirate group to rescue Ace and return successfully. In order to know the result, a group of supernovae decided to unite and approach the Whitebeard pirates together. See if Whitebeard has escaped from Marineford. Certainly. Even this is very dangerous. Because in New World, if the ship is approached without saying hello, it is generally defined as a war. In case the Whitebeard pirates attack, these supernovae are in trouble. But, Kid and others are daring. How could it be possible to give up this exploration because of this danger? So there is the present scene. Advertisement. Wow. The water waves rolled up. As time passed bit by bit, the supernova fleet kept approaching the Whitebeard pirates. But what makes people feel puzzled is, nothing happened to the Whitebeard pirates. It seemed that when they didn't exist, they continued to sail in a straight line, and even the fort on the ship was not erected. Something's wrong. Arouge, who had wings behind his back, grinned, his arm subconsciously grabbed the weapon, and a look of vigilance flashed deep in his eyes. Although they are bold, but not a fool. Know what the Whitebeard pirates represents. Even if the Whitebeard pirates had just gone through a big battle, they couldn't deal with it. Once war is launched, they are in danger of destruction at any time. Divination shows that our survival rate is 68%. With this probability, as long as we don't act excessively, we won't encounter much danger. Hawkins with long blonde hair flipped the cards. Hey, since there is no danger, then speed up. Kid stood on the bow, laughing unscrupulously. Other supernovae glanced at each other and ordered to speed up. 5 minutes later, the supernova joint fleet and the Whitebeard pirates meet in this sea. As it keeps getting closer, Kid and his party also saw a figure from the Moby Dick. This figure is extremely tall, holding a big knife, wearing a white coat behind him, and a white beard with a crescent moon on his majestic face. When a group of supernovae saw this figure, their eyes suddenly widened. A look of horror appeared on his face. Whitebeard. Advertisement. Known as the strongest man in the world. Standing on the bow of the Moby Dick at this time, watching them. He is still alive. Kid, who had been so arrogant, didn't dare to let the fleet get closer anymore, and took a step back subconsciously. Whitebeard just stood there quietly. It brings him tremendous pressure. How can it be? Drake on the side was so shocked that he cried out. He was originally Marine Rear Admiral, so he knows the strength of Marine better than anyone else. In this battle, Marine called 100,000 soldiers. So in his opinion, no matter how strong the Whitebeard pirates is, it cannot win. But that's it. Whitebeard appeared, standing in front of him alive. What does this mean? It means that Whitebeard has won the war. Under the encirclement and suppression of 100,000 Marines, he is still alive. Is this guy a monster? Arouge swallowed. The same goes for other supernovas, watching Whitebeard's tall figure, sweating coldly. Although Whitebeard didn't make a shot from start to finish. He didn't even say a word. But the 3 words Whitebeard have already brought unimaginable pressure on all supernovae. This pressure let a lot of supernovas have the idea of running fast. Because they know, once Whitebeard takes action, everyone will die here. Asterisk. Chapter 51. A great gift for supernova. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Wait, as soon as something happens, we will leave immediately. Luo suppressed the shock in his heart and whispered to the crew. He knew what Whitebeard was alive. Once shot against them, even if the supernovas unite, they are not an enemy of Whitebeard. It's better to run quickly instead of losing his life in vain. Yes. The crew nodded hurriedly. When Luo was about to escape, other supernovae had the same idea. Because they never thought of going to war from the start. The reason for approaching was to make sure that Whitebeard was dead. Goo la la la. On the other side, Whitebeard, standing on the bow, looked at the supernovae on the ships, and laughed. You little ghosts, do you want to be enemy with me? Boom. The words fell, and hockey exploded. The terrible conqueror's hockey swept like raging waves. The sea shook violently, as if boiling and splashing. After crossing a long distance, it crashed into the supernova fleet and shook these ships for a while. Shipboards and railings cannot withstand this force and will not break apart. The ordinary crew members were clutching their necks, their faces flushed, and their eyes protruding, as if they were about to suffocate. With the popping sound, one by one passed into a coma. In a flash, the supernova combined fleet is left with the captain and a few good crew members still standing. And Whitebeard from beginning to end only said a word. What a terrible hockey. Advertisement. Kid was sweating coldly. He never thought that someone could develop hockey to this level. A terror deterrence comes from raising hands and feet. Retreat, Kid, Hira said in a difficult tone. His strength is not better than Kid. Facing such a terrible hockey, he feels a little stiff in his hands and feet. It seems that it is too early to face such a strong player. Kid wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, then turned away. Because the helmsman fainted, he could only take the helm himself, preparing to turn around and leave the sea. Whitebeard, we have no intention of being an enemy of you. Luo replied loudly. He also turned and walked to the rudder position, and immediately turned around. Seeing this, other supernovae woke up. They jumped off the bow one after another, not daring to conflict with Whitebeard. In a short while, the supernova united fleet, which came in aggressively, left without even firing a shot. Did you retreat? But what are these guys here for? Marco scratched his head, his face full of doubts. Hearing that the supernova fleet was approaching, he thought it was these supernovas who were recklessly trying to step on the Whitebeard pirates. Unexpectedly, my father just yelled. The supernova, known as the evil generation, just ran away. And without hesitation, without a trace of muddy water, he looks extremely skilled. In just a few moments, the supernova fleet became a black spot, which was about to disappear. Advertisement. Ha 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 ha. These hairy boys are probably scared, but so are they. How could they have the courage to challenge Dad? Joe's laughed. Father, are we going to chase? Beasta looked up at Whitebeard. Although the supernovas didn't do anything, these people obviously didn't have any good intentions. Goo la la la. It's too early for these kids to gain a foothold in New World. The sinisterness of New World is far beyond their imagination. Whitebeard laughed and raised his fist sideways. Boom. A punch fell and the air shattered. The terrible shock wave spread and swept the surrounding sea. The sea is rioting. The huge wave swept up from a distance, and rushed towards the supernova fleet under the rumbling sound. The supernova who thought they managed to escape. Suddenly seeing the oncoming huge waves, a look of horror appeared in his eyes. How could a huge wave suddenly appear on the sea? Rouge roared. It is rumored that Whitebeard's ability can make waves, so this is definitely not a natural wave, but Whitebeard's action. Luo looked very ugly when he thought of something. According to divination, our survival rate has dropped from 68% to 22%. In other words, if we can't avoid this huge wave, we will be buried in the sea. Hawkins said solemnly. Ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Kid's face changed first, then he smiled low, and finally turned into a crazy laugh. Is this the strength of the strongest man in the world? Is this the strength of the people of New World? I really look forward to being in New World more and more. Sailed. This lunatic. Bonnie gritted his teeth. Advertisement. I don't understand. Kid can still laugh at this moment. Hey, this is the first big gift Whitebeard gave us. If you want to go to the second half of the Grand Line, take this gift. I hope you don't die here. Kid sneered. Speaking of maneuvering the ship with Kira, he greeted him with the waves ahead. He received the New World gift from Whitebeard. And I am extremely satisfied with this gift. Because of this huge wave, he understood one thing. That is, the first half of New World and Grand Line are different. The pirates who can survive in New World are only 1 in a million. Compared to New World, the first half of the Grand Line is simply a paradise for children. Face the waves. Other supernovae can't take care of others. Amidst the roar, he drove the ship towards the huge waves. Boom. The waves roared and the ships floated. The supernova from the first half of the Grand Line is facing the first crisis of going to the New World. If they succeed, they will set foot in New World. But if it fails, that shows that several people do not have the strength to establish a foothold in New World. Even if you are lucky enough to go to New World, you will be killed by other pirates, or conquered. Chapter 52. Respective Journey. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Those guys won't die, will they? Joe stood in front of the railing, looking into the distance. Daddy doesn't use much power at all. If he can't even break through this huge wave, then what qualifications do he have to set foot in New World? Marco smiled indifferently. Hey, they should also teach these boys a lesson, otherwise they don't know whose territory New World is. Beasta leaned in and laughed. Goo la la la. These brash, young and energetic bastards won't die so easily. Whitebeard laughed. Supernova may be nothing to him. But in the first half of the Grand Line, these people are like giants. If you can't overcome this danger, then you don't deserve to be called a supernova. Speaking, stepped off the bow and shouted. Continue sailing. Oh, the crew replied loudly. The ship was riding the wind and waves, heading for the distant sea. 2 days later, an unnamed island. The fleet of the Whitebeard pirates was docked on the shore. After a whole day of repairs, the fleet that had been damaged in the war was basically restored. Whitebeard also stood at the bow, seeing off the people. That's right. World, Ryder, Jinbei, Bullet, Ivankov, Buggy and others are going to disembark. Advertisement. Ryder is going to the ancient sleeping town provided by Whitebeard to find bat fruit. World wants to find his subordinates and brothers. Ivankov is going back to the country of shemales. Buggy sailed alone. As for Bullet, he wanted to leave for a while, and when he was ready, he challenged Whitebeard. Jinbei, don't you plan to stay? Marco was a little bit sad. Although Jinbei is not a member of the Whitebeard pirates. But everyone on the ship already regarded Jinbei as family. I have been away from the Fishman Island for a while, so I want to go back there and see how things are. Jinbei shook his head and said, looking at Whitebeard, he said seriously, after I return, I hope my father can accept it. Goo la la la, then be the captain of the 4th Division on my ship. Whitebeard took a sip and smiled. After Sachi was killed by Blackbeard, the position of captain of the 4th Division has been vacant. Jinbei is strong and fully qualified for this position. Really? Really okay. Jinbei was taken aback. Of course, with Jinbei your strength, I'm afraid no one will refuse. Marco replaced Whitebeard Kaido. Yes. Beasta laughed. Thank you very much. Jinbei's heart surged and bowed deeply at Whitebeard. What about you? Whitebeard turned to look at Crocodile and others. Will you leave or stay on my boat and sail with me? Several people heard this and made a decision after thinking about it for a while. Crocodile did not choose to join. Advertisement. But because there was nowhere to go, I decided to stay with the Whitebeard pirates for a while. Prisoners such as the evil king and Yuji Shiryu just ran out of Impel Down. The previous forces have dissipated long ago, and there is nowhere to go. So these people chose to join the Whitebeard pirates and become the captains of the Whitebeard pirates. Originally, the Whitebeard pirates had 43 fleets. But with the addition of the evil king, the Rain Shiryu, the Crescent Hunter, the huge battleship, and the Wine, the fleet grew to 48 at once. Whitebeard, not only did you have no loss after a big uproar at Marineford, but you are even more powerful. World on the side was full of envy. Goo la la la. World, Ryder, do you want to stay on my boat? Whitebeard laughed. I won't succumb to you. World directly refused. This is not surrender, it's just for the people of the old age to sail together on this sea. Whitebeard didn't care about World's rejection. Because he has a hunch. When we meet next time, the three will be on the same ship, driving the ship that existed in the old age, and continue sailing. Wait until I find the bat fruit. Ryder did not directly refuse. He used to be called the Lonely Rider and went to sea alone. But what people don't know is that when he goes to sea, he also wants to find like-minded companions. Even now, this idea still exists. If you find the bat fruit, and return to a young state, then he will regain the lost dream. Maybe they will agree to travel together at that time. Gone. World jumped onto a small boat, then looked up at Whitebeard. His tone became low. After the news of this war, you will replace Roger as the #1 enemy of the world government, so don't die. Whitebeard. He and Whitebeard are both enemies and friends. Advertisement. The people of the old age died one by one, and there are not many of them at the same time. Face the few old friends left. He didn't want to hear the news of Whitebeard's death. Goo la la la. I said, my voyage is not over yet, I won't die so easily. Whitebeard laughed. Then under the watched the other party go away. Ivankov and Buggy on the side saw this, and after greeted them, they also left with their own people. Whitebeard. At this time Bullet got on a small boat. I will challenge you in a month. The strongest name in the world will definitely belong to me. After speaking, he slowly disappeared into the sea. When Whitebeard saw everyone leaving, he was a little inexplicable. No matter World, Ryder or Bullet, they are not people of this era. I don't know when we can meet each other. Father, are we going to set sail? Marco laughed. Whitebeard woke up, looked at the people around him, and laughed suddenly. Sons, set sail. Oh, the crew cheered loudly. In the rolling waves, the Whitebeard pirates set sail again. This time their destination is Sabayati Archipelago. But, what Whitebeard didn't know was, the supernova that survived the huge waves has come to the New World. Also spread the news that Whitebeard was alive. The news about the Battle of Marineford, on this day, blasted through the world at the ultimate speed. Chapter 53. The World Shakes. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. News bird soars in Sabayati Archipelago. Snow-like newspapers were spilled, letting the residents of the island know what happened recently. But, today's newspapers seem to be a little different. There is only one content on the huge paper. The first page is printed with a huge black and white image, occupying a whole page. And the image person is Whitebeard. The following content is also all about Whitebeard's report. What happened? The people of Sabayati Archipelago looked suspicious and couldn't wait to turn around. But just a glance, these residents just stood there, unable to say a word. Because the content at the beginning of the newspaper is, the Battle of Marineford is over. New World 4 Emperors Whitebeard defeated 100,000 Marine with his own strength, successfully rescued Ace and won the battle. Fake. Fake. The people at Sabayati Archipelago have this idea in their minds. Then shaking his hands, he continued to look back. Although the above did not report the specific content of Marineford in detail, it clearly stated that Whitebeard is still alive and the major fleets under it have not lost much. The naval headquarters Marineford has sunk. After reading this report, everyone's eyes widened, a violent horror rushed into their hearts, and then they yelled in disbelief. Marine lost. How is it possible? How is this possible? Didn't Marshal Sengoku summon 100,000 soldiers? Why did you lose to Whitebeard? Advertisement. That man who was even more terrifying than the evil spirit defeated Marine. Is the world facing destruction? The ordinary people screamed in panic. Whitebeard is not actually the kind of pirate who does evil, but shelters many places. But under the rendering of world government and Marine, Whitebeard has long since become more terrifying than the evil spirit. Now that Whitebeard has won the victory, these ignorant and timid people suddenly feel like the sky is falling. Fear, despair, panic. Various emotions loomed over my heart, which immediately caused chaos. In the screams, countless people rushed to tell each other that the markets in the cities and small towns were all gone in an instant, and everyone escaped cleanly. And, as the news spread, in just a few days, the news spread all over the world. This day, the world is shaking. Countless people were holding newspapers and looking at the Whitebeard image on the cover of the front page, with fear and horror in their eyes. Before the Battle of Marineford began, everyone has great confidence in Marine. It is believed that Marine will defeat Whitebeard and the world will usher in peace and stability. Now, news of Marine's defeat came. Suddenly it was like a bucket of ice water, extinguishing the flames in their hearts. Panic spread like a storm, and countless people screamed in despair, as if the end of the world was coming. Certainly, some people yelled excitedly, ready to set sail. Marine was defeated. Even though 100,000 Marines were mobilized, Whitebeard was not defeated. Advertisement. Too strong. Whitebeard is so strong. What ability does the failed Marine have to suppress this sea? I want to go out to sea. The sea is the man's home. After going to New World, I must see that man with my own eyes and see his style. Countless people yelled and couldn't be so excited. This day, just a few hours, thousands of people went to the sea. Their purpose is only one. That is to go to New World and see Whitebeard in person. See what character it is that can defeat such a powerful Marine. If it's possible, I also hope to join the Whitebeard pirate group, become a member of the Whitebeard pirate group, and sail in the New World. East Blue. A pirate ship sailed in the calm sea. But with a loud laugh, the peace was broken. Whitebeard won. He really did it. He defeated 100,000 Marines and won the final victory. A man danced with excitement. This man is named Ferguson, the captain of the Ferguson Pirates, and he is 20 years old this year. Regardless of his age, he is a newcomer who has emerged in recent years, with a bounty of up to 15 million Baileys. This bounty may not be a big deal elsewhere. But in this small place, East Blue, it exists as a dominant player. However, for various reasons, Ferguson did not go to the Grand Line. Until today, he saw the news about Whitebeard. Advertisement. I have decided, I will go to New World and join the Whitebeard Pirates. Ferguson shouted excitedly. Defeat 100,000 Marine by oneself. This kind of strength, this kind of heroism. Isn't it the strongest in his heart? But the Whitebeard Pirates are so talented. Even if we arrive at the Grand Line, Whitebeard won't necessarily want us. A crew member said cautiously. Don't watch them dominate East Blue. When they arrive at the Grand Line, they can only be regarded as small shrimps. If Dad disagrees, then I will follow him until Dad is touched and let me join the Whitebeard Pirates. Ferguson laughed indifferently, stepped on the railing and looked at the endless sea. One day, I will join the Whitebeard Pirates and sail with my father on the sea of New World. Infinite vision flashed in his eyes. The name of Whitebeard has become a daddy. Only, what Ferguson didn't know was, he is not the only one who has this idea. West Blue, South Blue, North Blue, and the first half of the Grand Line. Even New World. Some people with dreams, after hearing the news of Whitebeard's victory, headed for Whitebeard's territory one by one. Their purpose is only one. That is to join the Whitebeard Pirates. Sail with the strongest man in the world. Chapter 54. The Shock of Kaido and Auntie. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. A small island in New World. Kaido, one of the 4 emperors, failed to commit suicide again. In a huge pit, Kaido lay in it and was covered by rocks, and didn't get up until a while later. Realizing that he was not hurt at all, he shook his head in disappointment. Then he grabbed the wine gourd in his hands and drank. As the wine in the wine gourd dwindled, a blush appeared on Kaido's face and his steps became staggered. After drinking the last drop of wine, he jumped up, and with the changes, he became a blue dragon. Thick dark clouds convolved together. The body of the giant dragon was hidden in the dark clouds, exuding a strong breath. Lantern's big eyes flashed red, staring at the men below with a trace of evil spirits. Guru. The person below swallowed, his face full of fear. Damn red hair. Dare to stop me, what a boldness, what a boldness. Kaido seemed to remember something, and roared while drunk. The dragon's body rolled, and the stirring dark clouds dispersed. He is very angry now. Had it not been for the red hair to stop him, he would have taken Whitebeard's sight under his name. At that time, Beast's pirates will become the strongest force in New World. Pity. Stopped by red hair. Let him get nothing from his previous troop. Certainly, this is not the place to make him angry. What really made him angry was that the ant took advantage of his conflict with the red hair and dispatched Katakuri, the head of the 3 generals, to the Fishmen Island. Once the Fishmen Island is controlled, the ant can control the entrance of New World with the Fishmen Island. At that time, the Fishmen Island will be the center and radiate to the surrounding area, and the power of the Ants pirate group will also skyrocket, thus becoming the strongest of the 4 emperors. Advertisement. The thought of succumbing to the ant. Not happy in my heart. And all of this is caused by red hair. I'm just a hairy boy, dare to point fingers at me. Kaido gets angry as he speaks. At the end, a pair of scarlet eyes stared down, spit out a dragon breath in the horrified gaze under his hand. Boom. The explosion appeared. The fiery flames billowed up, and smoke filled the sky. After killing his subordinates, he continued to spray heat at other places on the island. With the roar, the island was destroyed. After the vent was over, Kaido recovered his body again. Are they all dead? Looking at the corpses all over the floor, Kaido shook his head. It doesn't matter, go find the wine first. Talking, drunk and headed towards the pirate ship on the shore. But before he could go far, he saw one of his men approaching with a panic face, with a newspaper in his hand. Boss, the result of the Battle of Marineford is here. Oh, Kaido raised his head in a daze, so the old man Whitebeard is dead. No, Whitebeard did not die, but defeated Marine and won the war. This subordinate hurried Kaido. Really? Whitebeard is dead, that old guy actually killed a little boy. Kaido continued. But before he finished speaking, he stopped. Looking at it fiercely, the blush on his face disappeared, and his alcoholic spirit instantly became sober. What did you say? Marine lost. Old Whitebeard is still alive. Kaido raised the other person, his tone becoming extremely low. Advertisement. This is a report. The man took out the newspaper in horror. Kaido threw the man away, and when he got the newspaper, he flipped through it quickly. After reading it, the whole person stayed in place. Even if he was the 4 emperors and claimed to be the world's strongest creature, he was stunned by the news. It's nothing to break into the headquarters alone. He has been there several times in order to commit suicide. But he never succeeded, instead he was caught repeatedly by Marine. For this reason, he knew the power of naval headquarters very well and didn't think Whitebeard could succeed at all. But this is impossible. It became a reality. Old Whitebeard really did it. Kaido murmured. He didn't believe it, and looked at it repeatedly. It was not until the end that he put down the newspaper, and a shocked expression appeared on his face. An idea emerged in my mind. Whitebeard was able to leave under the besieging of 100,000 Marines. How strong is Whitebeard? The thought of this made him feel a little hairy. Because when Whitebeard participated in the Battle of Marineford, he still wanted to go to Whitebeard's turf to hunt for the bottom. If this matter is known to Whitebeard, then Liangzi will be settled. New World Cake Island. The Ant, one of the 4 emperors, also received the news of the Battle of Marineford at this time. But he was more shocked than Kaido. Although Kaido is also 4 emperors and also played against Whitebeard, he is a character of the late Whitebeard generation after all. But the Ant is different. She is not only the same generation as Whitebeard, but also in the same boat before. Advertisement. So she knows the strength of Whitebeard better than anyone. After learning that Whitebeard was going to save Ace, she directly regarded Whitebeard as a dead person and didn't think it would be successful at all. But today's news slapped her mercilessly. Let her know what is the strongest in the world. Mom, are you sure this news is true? The ant couldn't laugh anymore, and looked at the eldest son Perospero with a gloomy and terrifying expression. This news has spread all over the world, it should be true. Perospero feared Kaido. Quote. The ant fell silent, and the entire castle fell into a strange silence. If Perospero had the courage to look directly at her aunt, she could find that her face was already full of shock, and her eyes were even more unbelievable. It took a long time. Perospero was terrified to hear the ant's words. Where is Katakuri? She sent Katakuri to the Fishmen Island before, in order to occupy the Fishmen Island, and then radiate the surrounding area to completely control the entrance of New World. Now that Whitebeard is still alive, the Fishmen Island cannot go. Once you go, your life may be in danger. Should be at the Fishmen Island. The Battle of Marineford was already a few days ago. After the war, Whitebeard sailed for 2 days before encountering a supernova. It took another 2 or 3 days for the news to spread all over the world. These 5 or 6 days are enough time for Katakuri to reach the Fishmen Island. Quote. The ant's eyes widened sharply. A horrible breath spreads across the entire castle, and an astonishing killing intent hits the sky. She knows that Katakuri is in danger. Asterisk. Chapter 55. The era of big pirates is coming. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Baldy. This is a deserted island that even pirates would never visit. But what people don't know is, on this inconspicuous island, there is a secret base hidden, and this base is surprisingly the base of the Revolutionary Army. At this time, the cadres of the Revolutionary Army gathered together. Everyone's expression is different. There are surprises, solemnities, doubts, and shock. This is 100,000 Marine officers. In order to deal with Whitebeard, Sengoku drew the elite forces of each branch in order to defeat Whitebeard in one fell swoop and deter the entire New World. Unexpectedly. But lost. A revolutionary army cadre was full of amazement. Yeah, before the war, everyone thought that Whitebeard was bound to die, but who would have thought it would be the result? Can I say that I really deserve to be the strongest man in the world? The other cadres nodded one after another. The strongest in the world. The long-robed dragon's eyes moved slightly. After hearing the news of Whitebeard's victory just now, he was also shocked, and it took a long time to react. Until now, I still don't understand how Whitebeard did it. In that case, you can leave alive. Dragon, shall we take this opportunity to act? A cadre looked at the dragon. Advertisement. The dragon woke up, and then thought about Kaido. After this battle, Whitebeard will definitely become the #1 enemy of the world government. This way it can also attract some firepower for us, so it is indeed time to act. I heard that Whitebeard went to Impel Down and released the companions of the Revolutionary Army. We might take this opportunity to contact them. Sabo, with blonde hair on the side, said. Can. Then let you contact your companions. The dragon nodded, and then seemed to think of something, with some emotion. In order to save Ace, Whitebeard did not hesitate to face 100,000 Marine directly. If only he could join our Revolutionary Army. Suppose Whitebeard joins the Revolutionary Army. The Revolutionary Army does not need to hide like it is now. But after saying this, he shook his head with a smile. Knowing that wanting a strong like Whitebeard to join the Revolutionary Army is harder than reaching the sky. Fire Fist Ace. Sabo was taken aback when he heard the words. An inexplicable figure flashed in his mind, making his head gloomy. And the more you think about it, the more movies you remember, until at the end he clasped his head tightly, and the cold sweat slipped down. For the name Ace, it seems to be clearer. Holy Land Mariajoy. The location of the headquarters of the world government. Following the news of the defeat in the Battle of Marineford, 5 elders, the highest authority in the world government, also gathered together. On the couch in the meeting room, 5 elders sat in different positions, and everyone had deep anger on their faces. Marine lost. Advertisement. In the case of summoning 100,000 Marine soldiers, it even lost to the Whitebeard pirates. This defeat, it was like a slap, and slapped them hard on the face. Make them feel a sting. Has Marine rotten to such an extent? You can lose even this kind of must-win battle. This defeat has simply lost the face of the world government. The strength of the Whitebeard pirates is beyond imagination, and according to the information returned, Whitebeard seems to have returned to its peak state. Peak state. How is this possible? In any case, the news of the defeat has spread all over the world, and the world government and Marine have lost their majesty. The world will usher in turmoil next, and we must be prepared. 5 elders, you said each other. Sengoku is too weak. He has to bear the main responsibility for the failure of this war, so I suggest dismissing him as a marshal. 5 elders said solemnly. This. The other 4 wrinkled their brows and hesitated. The failure of this war is indeed related to Sengoku. But Sengoku is Marine Marshal, and also known as the resourceful general. He has been doing well since becoming marshal. If because of this, Sengoku's marshal status is exempted, then, who will take over? We must know how rare it is to be a commander with wisdom, strength, means and prestige. They really want to replace Sengoku, they really don't know who should take over. The Battle of Marineford is defeated, and the era of the big pirates, which is more intense than after Roger's death, is approaching. In order to deal with this era, a tough person must be found as the commander-in-chief. So I recommend Sakazuki to replace Sengoku, said 5 elders who spoke before. Advertisement. Sakazuki. When the other 4 people heard this thoughtfully, after thinking for a long time, they nodded their heads. But before that, we must do something. Whitebeard has won such a victory, and his reputation has reached Roger's level. He must not be allowed to continue sailing in the new world. 5 elders hated the voice. Let Marine cooperate with CP0 and increase Whitebeard's bounty. If you have a chance, you can directly release Buster Call. Be sure to get rid of Whitebeard. And the ships under the Whitebeard banner can't be let go. Another 5 elders added. The other 3 nodded. Several people quickly gave orders. Sengoku, who was in the waters near naval headquarters, also got the order immediately. Increase Whitebeard's bounty. Sengoku sighed, then shook his head. Having witnessed the strength of Whitebeard, he knew that this method was useless. The increase in bounty will only increase the prestige of Whitebeard. Whitebeard, you old fellow really gave me a headache for a lifetime. He sighed deeply as he spoke. Then ordered the generals on the sea ship to come to the parliament. And agreed on Whitebeard's new bounty. Chapter 56. Whitebeard's new bounty. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Warship meeting room. Because of the sinking of Marineford, Sengoku had a lot of things to deal with, so a warship was simply transformed into a temporary office. Many generals of naval headquarters were basically on this warship. After receiving the edict from Sengoku, the generals came one after another. Crack. Garp ate the donuts and said vaguely, Shaozaru, why did you say Sengoku came to visit us? Should it be for Whitebeard's business? Crane Vice Admiral frowned. As news of the defeat of Marineford spread throughout the world, the number of pirates on the Grand Line increased at a rate visible to the naked eye. Sengoku is very busy these days. Now I can make time for meetings, obviously not for trivial matters. Puff ha ha ha. Whitebeard must have given him a headache. Garp laughed carelessly. If you were serious about the Battle of Marineford, things wouldn't be like this. Crane Vice Admiral complains a bit. No way, it was my grandson who was executed. You should also be considerate of my old man. Puff ha ha ha. Garp buckled his nostrils and smiled indifferently. Quote. Hearing this, Vice Admiral sighed helplessly. During the discussion, the two came to the meeting room. And other generals also came one after another. Admiral Aokiji, Admiral Kazaru, and Admiral Akainu. After Akainu came, he sat in his seat with an extremely gloomy expression. In that battle, although he did not die, his arm was cut off by Whitebeard. He has now become a one-armed admiral. Advertisement. Since everyone is here, let me talk about the content of this meeting. Sengoku said condensedly. At the same time, the order of the world government is repeated. Whitebeard. The atmosphere in the room became serious, and every general frowned, not knowing what to say for a while. Battle of Marineford. Whitebeard has left a deep impression on all marine generals. Confronted the 3 admiral with one's own strength, wounded the 3 admiral, and successfully rescued Ace. Even if the war has passed for several days. But every time I think about it, it still makes them feel incredible. The defeat in the Battle of Marineford, the news has spread all over the world, and Whitebeard's reputation has risen. So, Sengoku saw that the generals did not speak and didn't care, but said to himself, so the previous bounty is no longer applicable. Now, the world government has issued an order to increase Whitebeard's bounty. Everyone thinks the bounty should be set. For how much? Do you raise the bounty? Whitebeard has brought a huge disaster to Marine, and the reward should indeed be increased. Many generals started talking. Whitebeard's bounty is 5,046 million. I suggest raising the bounty of 200 million to 5.246 million. The Ghost Spider Vice Admiral suggested. Puff ha ha ha. If it's only 5.2 billion, then Whitebeard would be underestimated. It's better to maintain the current bounty. Garp burst into laughter. Many generals heard this subconscious nod. The consequences of the Battle of Marineford were extremely bad, comparable to what Roger said in his execution. It is indeed a bit foolish to just increase the bounty by 200 million. Yeah, why don't it grow to 5.6 billion? Advertisement. Kazaru leaned slowly with Jiro's legs tilted. 5.6 billion. Everyone was surprised. You must know that Roger's bounty is only 5.5 billion. If Whitebeard's bounty is defined as 5.6 billion, doesn't it mean that Whitebeard is even more dangerous than One Piece Roger? Inappropriate. The defeat in the Battle of Marineford has had a huge impact on Marine. According to statistics, in the few days after the news came out, there were thousands of pirates on the Grand Line. So we shouldn't create an enemy more dangerous than Roger. Crane Vice Admiral shook his head. Although the bounty is a bounty. But this kind of reward is not a status symbol. If Whitebeard's bounty is allowed to surpass One Piece Roger, it does not mean that it is announced to the world. Marine is facing an enemy more dangerous than Roger. At that time, not only will it not bring any good results, but will make New World more confusing. It makes sense. The generals nodded after listening. Then said it to be 55,666 million, right? At this moment, Sengoku, who had not spoken, spoke up. The words fell silent, and the meeting room fell silent. Everyone turned their heads to look at Sengoku. A look of astonishment appeared on their faces. 5.564.8 million. This bounty is only considered high by ordinary people. But for their generals, they know what this bounty represents. Because of this bounty, it's One Piece Roger's bounty. Once Whitebeard's bounty is defined as 5.564.8 million. That is basically announcing to the world that Whitebeard's danger level is comparable to that of One Piece Roger. Advertisement. We can even say, Whitebeard is already the second One Piece. The conference room fell into a strange silence. Regardless of ordinary Vice Admiral, or 3 Admiral. At this moment, he was hung with solemn color, and he didn't dare to nod easily. Because they know, once this bounty is released, it will cause a sensation. Even just such a bounty can make the upcoming big pirate time intense several times. The impact of Whitebeard has far surpassed Roger. Sengoku sighed. If Roger's death opened the first era of great pirates, Then Whitebeard defeated Marine and won the victory, which is tantamount to the opening of the second era of great pirates. And this era, many times more fierce than the era started by Roger. Roger started the era, just let people go to the sea to find treasure. The era started by Whitebeard has let everyone know about the weakness of Marine and world government. As the so-called fearful but not ethical, people are always afraid of power, not morality. In the Battle of Marineford, Whitebeard shattered the aura of invincibility on Marine, exposing the weakness of Marine and the world government to the sun. Marine, who has lost its invincible aura, has been unable to suppress people's hearts. So the next era, it will be a terrible era that has never been seen since the establishment of the world government. And the people who started this era, it's Whitebeard. If it weren't for the bad effects of too high a bounty. He even wants to raise the bounty to 0.6 billion. Asterisk. Chapter 57. Bounty that shocked the world. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Whitebeard's new bounty was announced. The news bird flew around the world with this news, and then sprinkled snow like newspapers. The newspaper this time is the same as last time. There is only one content. That is, Whitebeard's bounty increased from 5,046 million to 5.564.8 million. As soon as this amount was announced, it instantly shocked the entire world. East Blue. Floating island. This is a small island flying in the sky. In a palace on the island, an old man with long golden hair wearing a golden coat is holding a newspaper and laughing wildly. Gahahaha. 5.564.8 million. It turned out to be a bounty of 5.564.8 million. Whitebeard, you really shocked everyone. The blonde old man laughed. His name is Shaki, known as the Golden Lion in the old days. After escaping from Impel Down that year, he has been hiding on the floating island. Now even you have reached that level. Fighting 100,000 Marine officers with your own power, what a pride. But me, how can I lag behind you? Wait, Whitebeard, wait. I will succeed soon. I will give the world a great gift at that time. The world will eventually belong to me. The Golden Lion laughed loudly. Before that, he was thinking about taking action after 2 years of preparation. Advertisement. But, after knowing what Whitebeard did, he couldn't help it anymore. I can't wait to announce to the world right away that the king of the old age is not only Whitebeard alone, but also Golden Lion Shaki. Sabayati Archipelago. A certain pub. A white-haired old man with glasses was sitting in front of the pub counter with a newspaper in his hand. 5.568.4 million, this reward is really missed. Rayleigh was a little emotional. He is extremely sensitive to this amount. Because this bounty is the bounty of the Captain of the Year. This reminded him of those years of adventures at sea. Whitebeard's reward has been comparable to Roger. Do you know what people call Whitebeard after this news is announced? Leaning on the bar, Shaki with his back to Rayleigh turned his head slightly and spit out a smoke ring. They call Whitebeard. The king of the world. King of the world. Rayleigh smiled and asked curiously, should it be One Piece? Who knows? However, regardless of whether the king of the world or One Piece, the impact is the same. The new era has arrived, and the Grand Line is about to be turbulent. As a member of the Roger crew, are you not ready to welcome this era? Shaki looked at Rayleigh with interest. Forget it. Rayleigh put down the wine glass, and a touch of sadness flashed in his eyes. My adventure has already ended. Yes, his adventure ended the moment the Roger pirates disbanded. Now he is just the coder of Sabayati Archipelago. What about the new era? Advertisement. All he can do is to watch the development of the times. The Moby Dick. After separating from Jinbei and others, the fleet continued to sail on the way to Sabayati Archipelago. Because I am not in a hurry. And these days, banquets have been held and stopped from time to time. So several days passed without arriving at Sabayati Archipelago. Until today. After Marco bought a few newspapers from Newsbird, the ship suddenly cheered vigorously. Daddy's bounty is out. 5.564.8 million, which is 5.564.8 million. It's increased by 500 million. Dad is really amazing. The crew of the Whitebeard pirates cheered loudly. This is not as simple as an increase of 500 million. Knowing something, Marco chuckled and shook the newspaper in his hand. Do you know? One Piece Roger's bounty is also 5.564.8 million. The words fell, and the audience fell silent. The young crew members who were still cheering and did not know turned their heads and looked at Marco in amazement. Is this true? An unsuspecting crew member swallowed. Of course. Marco laughed. So Daddy is One Piece. One Piece. If it's just One Piece, that would be too small to underestimate the old man. He is now called the king of the world. Yes, Dad's position has completely surpassed the 4 emperors. Later, 4 emperors will become the 3 emperors, and Dad will be the only emperor above the 3 emperors. The crew of the Whitebeard pirates were discussing excitedly. Hey, Luffy, did you see that the old man's bounty has reached 5.5 billion, and you are far from becoming the One Piece? Advertisement. Ace looked at Luffy triumphantly. Okay. So awesome. Luffy was surprised and envious. This kind of bounty has always been his dream. Of course, and this is not the end. As long as we continue to sail, Dad's achievements will surpass One Piece and become the emperor of the world above the entire world. Ace said longingly. Luffy narrowed his mouth and squinted at Ace. I don't know if it is his illusion. I always feel that my brother is showing off to myself. But, I am really envious. Goo la la la. Are you offering a reward of 5.5 billion? Sengoku dared to announce it. Whitebeard took the newspaper and saw the bounty announced above. Father, it's rare to be so happy today, let's have a banquet. Marco laughed. Daddy's bounty has increased by a full 500 million, so naturally I have to celebrate. Ace agreed with both hands. The other crew members listened and looked at Whitebeard eagerly, wanting to take this opportunity to get drunk. Goo la la la. Whitebeard got up from his seat, glanced around, then laughed loudly. Sons. The party is going. Oh. Many crew members cheered. Cheerful laughter quickly sounded, and the crew members hooked their backs to celebrate. Chapter 58. Whitebeard's Prestige. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Early the next morning. The crew woke up from their drunkenness. At the same time, a small island full of bubbles also appeared in people's sight. Father, Sabayati Archipelago is here. Marco shook his aching head and walked over to Whitebeard. Reached. Let the fleet approach the island and return to New World after the coating is finished. Whitebeard said. Clear. Marco went down and announced Whitebeard's order. The crew members who were drunk yesterday, after receiving the order, also wake up one by one and start their own work. Soon, the Whitebeard fleet came to the waters near the island. But both Whitebeard and the captain of the ship underestimated his reputation. Did not wait for the ship to approach. People in the port discovered this fleet. This fleet is. The residents of the small island were shocked when they saw such a huge fleet. Then I looked up again and saw the crescent-bearded pirate flag at the top of the mast. The appearance of this flag made the eyes of those present wide open. A frightening thought also flashed through my mind. That is. Whitebeard. Coming. It's Whitebeard's banner, so Whitebeard came to Sabayati Archipelago. A resident's voice trembled. The moment these words fell, the people present woke up instantly, let out a scream, and then fled in a hurry, while running and shouting at the same time. Whitebeard is here. The man who is more terrible than the devil has come to Sabayati Archipelago. Run, everyone, run, or you will all be killed. Advertisement. A horrified scream sounded. The residents of Sabayati Archipelago didn't know what happened at first, but after hearing the 3 words Whitebeard, they trembled with fright. The people in the market dispersed like a tide. The store door closed quickly. It's just a while. The bustling Sabayati Archipelago has become an empty island, and no one can be seen on the street. Ah, we seem to scare the coder away. An abrupt sound sounded, followed by a burst of dense footsteps. If there are people on the street, you can see that Whitebeard and his party have already boarded the island. This also illustrates the fame of the old man now. Ace chuckled. Sabayati Archipelago is located in front of the Red Line. The pirates in the first half of the Grand Line must go here if they want to enter the New World. Therefore, the residents of the island have long been accustomed to the existence of pirates. It stands to reason that you are not afraid of pirates at all. But now Whitebeard is here. The residents of the island were frightened and left, and even some shops with a black background hurriedly closed their doors. From this we can know how terrible Whitebeard's name is. It has reached a level that makes all parties fearful. Yes, the captains were extremely proud to hear this. Hello. Now isn't the time to talk about this. Marco had a headache. For pirates, if you want to go to New World, you must pass the Fishman Island. Now that the coders are all scared away, how can they go home? Goo la la la. Don't worry, there is an old friend I know on the island, he is also a coder. Whitebeard laughed. Advertisement. Rayleigh is now at Sabayati Archipelago. If you remember correctly, it should be in Shaki's bar now. Daddy's friend. A flash of suspicion flashed in everyone's eyes. Under the leadership of Whitebeard, a group of people crossed the street. The residents hiding in the house also looked at Whitebeard secretly, with fear in their eyes. Is this the strongest man in the world? A villain who is more fierce than the devil, defeated 100,000 marine officers with his own power. It's terrible, is he here to kill us all? The Peking residents shivered. For this peep, Whitebeard and others are very clear. But he didn't care. After passing through the areas, we came to the 13th area. The shops in this area have been closed. There is only one exception. A bar was located on the side of the street. Not only was it open, but there was laughter, and it was obvious that someone was drinking. But the people inside seemed to notice something was wrong. The laughter disappeared. Everyone hid. Only this tavern is still open. Is this the place where my friends live, as the old man said? 12th Division Captain Harta said with interest. After speaking, he walked with the other captains. After walking into the bar, I took a look around and found that there were some pirates in the bar. But these pirates all sat quietly. And cold sweat slipped from the forehead, obviously nervous. They are all bolder pirates. After hearing Whitebeard's arrival, they not only did not hide, but wanted to take this opportunity to meet Whitebeard. But bold goes to bold. After seeing the captains of the Whitebeard pirate group, the pirates became so frightened that they were dripping with cold sweat. It's the captain of the 1st Division of the Whitebeard pirates, Marco the Phoenix. Not only that, but Diamond Joe's and Foil Vista. This shouldn't be the point, look at that person. Advertisement. One of the pirates pointed Conceal Edley. Everyone listened and took a breath. Fire Fist Ace. One Piece Roger's son. It was also the target Marine wanted to execute. Although the news that Ace was rescued spread all over the world. But for 99% of people, they don't know whether this is true or not. Now I see the emergence of Ace lively and vigorously. The shock in my heart can be imagined. The captains of the various Whitebeard teams are here, so Whitebeard. Has arrived. Suddenly, people thought of something and looked out of the bar. There was a sound of footsteps. Tread, tread, tread. The sound of calm footsteps sounded. The light at the entrance of the bar dimmed, and a tall figure appeared immediately. This figure wore a coat, his sturdy and bare upper body was intertwined with several scars, and his majestic face had a white beard with a crescent moon. See this person. The pirate's present suddenly trembled. One by one, holding his breath, cold sweat slipped from his forehead. Whitebeard, known as the strongest man in the world, appeared in this tavern at the moment. Even if there is no action or words, it brings tremendous pressure to all the pirates. Whitebeard ignored the pirates around him. Instead, he looked straight ahead and looked at the old figure sitting in front of the bar. Goo la la la. Rayleigh, my old friend, it's been a long time. Whitebeard laughed. Speaking, he raised the big knife fiercely, and slashed towards the figure in the violent sound of breaking through the air. Asterisk. Chapter 59. Rayleigh's Shock 1/7. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Rinse. A violent sound of breaking through the air sounded. With a powerful sword, it slashed towards Rayleigh, whose back was facing everyone. Everyone was startled, their eyes widened, wondering how Whitebeard would suddenly start his hand. Whitebeard, you are still the same as before. With his back to the crowd, Rayleigh rolled his head slightly, his face full of helplessness. But as soon as the words fell, the sharp light suddenly appeared. A long sword resisted at the very moment. Clang. The sound of gold and iron exploded. Under everyone's surprised eyes, Whitebeard's knife was easily blocked. Although I am old, it is still okay to block the cut of the world's strongest man. Rayleigh was holding a long sword with a smug smile on his face. But this was just finished. He felt something wrong with 8 and 7. Strength. Strong force. A giant like a mountain rushed from the clouds and passed on to him continuously. The originally contented smile stagnated, and shock appeared on his face. Stabbed. A series of sparks splashed. The strong force smashed down, directly pressing Rayleigh on the bar. The arm holding the long sword was trembling constantly. It seems that I have tried my best to stop it. How can it be? Rayleigh almost yelled out, supporting the bar with his arms, looking at Whitebeard with extremely surprised eyes. As old friends and old rivals. Advertisement. He knows what Whitebeard really is. So seeing Whitebeard's move, he didn't care much. Thinking that even if Whitebeard is known as the world's strongest, as One Piece's deputy, he can easily take it. But just one blow, but it subverted his imagination. The power from Kong Yunch made him feel like he was facing the Whitebeard, a mature man. It is so fierce and terrifying. Goo la la la. Rayleigh, you who are known as the right hand of the Sea Thief King, are also old. Looking at Rayleigh, who was a little embarrassed, Whitebeard put away his broadsword and laughed loudly. Feeling the power disappear, Rayleigh breathed a sigh of relief. But soon, he felt a tingling pain in his wrist. It turned out that even though he received the blow just now, the huge force still caused slight damage to him. Thinking of just a knife, I hurt myself. The shock that was finally suppressed reappeared on his face again, and at the same time he gave a wry smile. I finally know why you can rescue Ace. At first I heard that Whitebeard had won. He also found it incredible. I don't know how Whitebeard created this miracle. Sometimes I even wonder if Marine deliberately released the water to let Whitebeard escape. Until now, after receiving a knife from Whitebeard in the front, he only knew where Marine deliberately released the water. The reason why I lost was completely because Whitebeard was too strong, so strong that Marine was not an opponent at all. Whitebeard, it's been a long time. At this moment, Shaki, who was leaning on the bar, looked at Whitebeard with a smile, as if he was not facing the strongest person in the world, but an old friend for many years. Goo la la la. Advertisement. It's been a long time since I saw you. Will that fellow Garp come to trouble you? Whitebeard laughed. I don't want to hear that name now. Shaggy spread his hands helplessly. When she was a pirate, she happened to be targeted by Garp, so that she was chased for several years, and she didn't get rid of it until she retired. With that, he took out a wine jar and placed it in front of Whitebeard. She knows Whitebeard's habit and rarely uses small bowls when drinking. The familiar fragrance, is it the wine from North Blue? Whitebeard grabbed the jar and poured it into his mouth. Bingo. Shaggy shook his fingers. You were really lucky, these wines just arrived the day before yesterday. Rayleigh on the side laughed. Really? Then I have to drink more. Whitebeard took a few more sips. Seeing the three people chatting without others, the captain of the Whitebeard pirate group and all the pirates in the tavern finally woke up. They turned around one after another. He set his eyes on Rayleigh. And remembered what Whitebeard had just said. One Piece's right hand. Is he the deputy captain of One Piece? Roger Pluton Rayleigh. The pirates looked at each other. Unexpectedly, I not only saw Whitebeard here. I also saw the right hand of One Piece who was famous in New World in the old days. The strongest man in the world, as well as One Piece's companion, actually met in this tavern. If this news goes out, it will shock the world, right? Of course, because they are all superpowers who sailed in the New World in the old days. Advertisement. The pirate in the tavern whispered. I'm living in seclusion right now, you come to me so swaggering, and later Marine will come to trouble me again. Hearing the whispers around, Rayleigh sighed helplessly. Goo la la la. Whitebeard laughed and put the wine tank down. He didn't care about Rayleigh's words, but talked about the business. We want to return to New World. The ship needs coating, but the coater was scared away by me, so this help it's up to you to help. Coating. When Rayleigh saw Whitebeard talking about business, his smile narrowed. The size of the Whitebeard pirate group is not small, and it will take a while to finish it all. Whitebeard didn't care. Because the war is over, he is not in a hurry to return. So I don't mind this little effort at all. Huh. Aren't you living in seclusion? You can coat Whitebeard with such a fair face, so you are not afraid that Marine will trouble you. Shaggy spit out a smoke ring, deliberately teasing. 5.0. Yeah, can't you guys find me in private? My old bones can't stand the toss. Rayleigh looked at Whitebeard and spread his hands helplessly. Goo la la la. You who are known as Pluton, are you also afraid of those little guys from Marine? Whitebeard laughed. Rayleigh could only give a wry smile when he heard this. Looking at the two people chatting with Marco and others, they looked at each other, and there was a look of joy on their faces. As the people of the old age grow old, Whitebeard hadn't been so happy in a long time. Seeing my father sitting with his old friends, drinking and chatting unscrupulously, they are the sons, I am very happy from the bottom of my heart. Chapter 60. Teach Luffy 2/7. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Early morning. Sha Guang walked briskly to the eastern sky. The black and blue silk cloth was gradually illuminated by golden light, and several cotton-like white clouds were smeared with a charming orange-red by the Sha Guang, as if they were inlaid with gold. Sabayati Archipelago shore. More than 40 giant ships docked aside. Although it was just dawn, there was cheerful laughter from the boat. Goo la la la. Boy with straw hat, your current strength is not enough to gain a foothold in New World. If you break in rashly, you will only cause your partner to die. Whitebeard sat in the seat and laughed while drinking. And in front of him is Straw Hat Luffy. Because it takes time to coat, I'm not busy now, and the redhead asked him to take care of Luffy. So simply take advantage of this time to prepare to teach and teach each other. When Luffy heard this silence, his fist was tightly clenched. Although very unwilling, but knowing that everything Whitebeard said is true. And let alone New World, even in the first half of the Grand Line, there are some people he can't beat. Several times, it was almost destroyed by the 01 Regiment. Plus experience Marineford after World War I. He finally knew how many masters there are in the world and how many monsters New World hides. In the face of these monsters, the Straw Hat Pirate Group is not an opponent at all. If you enter New World rashly, you may die. Father, guide my brother. Ace on the side begged. He knows that Luffy is impulsive and not very capable. If you enter the second half of the Grand Line recklessly, you might die in New World. Uncle Whitebeard, please guide me in training. Luffy also woke up. After hearing Ace's words, he seemed to be blessed to the soul and bowed to Baihu 90 degrees. Advertisement. He knows how strong Whitebeard is. Even Aokiji, who could easily kill himself in seconds, was severely injured by Whitebeard's punch. If you are willing to teach yourself, you can definitely grow quickly and have the strength to enter the New World. Goo la la la. It takes 10 times the effort of ordinary people to have the strength to be based on New World. Whitebeard put the jar down, a serious look on his face. No matter what the price is, I will become stronger. Luffy clenched his fist tightly. He didn't want to hurt himself, and he didn't want to be separated from his companions. In that case, follow me to train. Whitebeard nodded. Really? A surprise flashed in Luffy's eyes. Then I saw Whitebeard stand up and jump to the shore in one leap. Seeing this, he hurried to keep up. In this world, if you want to increase your strength, you can only start from several aspects. Whitebeard looked at Luffy. The next thing I want to teach you is Haki. Luffy was taken aback. He is no stranger to this term. But how to use it, but no experience. Now take out your full strength and attack me. Whitebeard stuck the big knife aside, and stood motionless. This. Luffy hesitated. Hello, Luffy, what are you hesitating? It's impossible to meet Daddy with your current strength. Ace laughed loudly on the boat. Hearing this, Luffy finally took a deep breath and squatted down. Advertisement. PP. After a while, steam appeared. In order to fight Whitebeard, he directly opened the second gear. Is your brother going to practice with Dad? Marco leaned on the railing and watched with interest the upcoming battle below. Yes, this guy is always reckless. With this kind of character and strength, he can't go to New World. Ace spread his hands helplessly. Hey, Haki. Is it okay? Looking at the seriousness of that kid, don't you really think you can hit the old man Whitebeard? Crocodile walked aside, watching the movement below, couldn't help but sneer. It's not that he underestimated Luffy. But the gap between the two is too big. It's so big, let alone a victory, whether it can even touch Whitebeard is a problem. I hope that the Straw Hat Boy will not be hit. Beasta smiled. Don't worry, that guy Luffy won't be so vulnerable. Ace smiled indifferently. He knows his brother very well. His head is always a muscle, and he is heartless. How could he be hit because he lost the battle? After several people talked, Luffy was also ready. He pressed a fist to the ground and looked at Whitebeard with high spirits. Uncle Whitebeard, I'm going to FK. Goo la la la. Don't hesitate, come with the strongest strength. Whitebeard still didn't move. When the words fell, Luffy's eyes flashed, and his body rushed away as he stepped on his feet. Shabu. Advertisement. An afterimage passed. Almost in the blink of an eye, Luffy came to the front of Whitebeard. His body leapt up into the air, clenched his steamy fist, and slammed it hard at Whitebeard. The fist was flung extremely fast. After a while, he came in front of Whitebeard. Hit. This thought 807 flashed through Luffy's mind. But before this thought fell, his eyes shrank into needles. Because at the very moment, Whitebeard avoided. Just turning his head slightly, he easily avoided his own blow. Uncle Whitebeard is amazing, Luffy exclaimed and shook his fist again. And the speed of swinging this time is even faster than before. At such a short distance and at this speed, it is logically impossible to avoid it. But Whitebeard seemed to see the future. Just when the fist was about to hit, he avoided it again. This. Luffy's eyes widened, no more mercy, and yelled, rubber pistol. Shoo, shoo, shoo. There were bursts of breaking through the air. The arms are as dense as bullets, and they continue to blast. But such intensive attacks did not cause any impact on Whitebeard. Whitebeard seemed to see through everything. No matter how Luffy attacked, he couldn't touch it. See this. Luffy flashed, and distanced himself from Whitebeard. However, he did not continue to shoot, but stared at Whitebeard blankly, his eyes filled with shock. He really couldn't understand how Whitebeard did it. He completely avoided his own attack.